We're back like Paul Newman, except as usual when I say that, we're going to have an episode prior to this. But yes, we're back from our long hiatus.
I don't want to see an ordinary film. I want to see something extraordinary.
Your sacrifice completes my sanctuary of 1,000 testicles.
You ever feel as if your mind had started to erode?
Welcome to 1000 Wives of Weird, a podcast that celebrates weird movies. I am Brad Hefner, and with me as always is
Billy Martell.
And this is a very special episode. Once again, we have a guest. I'm so excited. Let me tell you about this young cat. Let me tell you how I met this young cat. Billy and I were at a screening of The Green Knight.
Yes.
And someone from behind us was like, I don't know if he greeted you at first. I don't know if he said like, hey, Billy, because you knew him prior to this.
I think he said, Caliban, what the hell are you doing here?
Yes. But he was like, hey, can I sit with you guys? And I was like, wow, that's bold. Because I didn't know this kid.
Right. Yeah,
he's a young man. He's younger than us by damn sight. We were watching the movie with him and sort of whispering to each other. It wasn't a very crowded theater.
Yeah.
And I was just blown away by how much this guy knew about movies,
Absolutely.
like for his young age, like what he's seen, all this stuff. I was so impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And later I would go on to work with him in a show. You worked with him on a show, a little known show called Shakespeare's The Tempest.
Yeah. Little known indie production.
Yes.
Yep.
I worked with him on another little known show, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yes.
He's a great guy. Just got done performing a wonderful job in The Elephant Man. It's Ian Keefer.
Woo!
Hello. I'm honored to be here.
Ian has brought with him today a movie that I'm going to spoil it now before we even get to recommendations that we all love.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
He has brought with him Brian DePalma's Phantom of the Paradise,
Which is been a huge missing thing in my weird movie knowledge.
I only watched it last year. Ian, what is it about Phantom of the Paradise that it made you want? You gave me a long list of movies that you possibly wanted to talk about. I sort of picked this out of this. But what is it about Phantom of the Paradise to you that made you want to talk about it?
So I remember watching this film when I was 14, I believe, super young with some of the things that happen in it. But I've always been a fan of literature, a huge bibliophile. So when I learned that there was this movie that takes Faust and Phantom of the Opera and, spoiler alert, Picture of Dorian Gray and all of that mixed together, I was like, oh my God, I need to see this movie. And I did not, like, from watching it again last night, I did not understand, like, anything that happened in this when I first watched it. I was just like, oh, big scary guy. He doesn't like me. So when I rewatched it last night, it reaffirmed me completely. I texted Brad. I was like, yes, I am happy I picked this film because it was like, oh, yes, this film is amazing.
Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah, it has a lot in it. And as we talked about recently, you're a big Muppets fan.
I am, yes.
And Paul Williams stars and wrote the score and book for this film.
And he did Rainbow Connection for Muppets too, right?
Yes, he did.
He did Rainbow Connection. He also did most of, if not all of the music for A Muppet's Christmas Carol.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he had a great guest appearance on The Muppet Show where he said, for the first time...
N-word?
No, but
good.
He said,
good for Paul Williams.
Good for Paul Williams. You know what? The man has standards.
Yes. He has class.
He has class.
That's what it is. That's
classy
class.
Man, our Paul Williams. No, he said, I can't believe it. For the first time, I'm the tallest one here. And then Sweetums walked out and he said, for the first time, I'm going to cry on national television.
So very briefly.
That was one of the things from watching this film. I was like, his villain portrayal is so good as like this short dude. I think I wrote later in my notes, Paul Williams Short King.
Yes,
100%.
Absolutely. That is his entire vibe. This film.
He's a short king of the damned. Is his vibe in this movie?
Very briefly, if you couldn't tell from the title, this is a Phantom of the Opera story.
Very loosely,
a composer named Wilson Leach writes a rock cantata, and it is stolen away from him. It's about Faust, and it's stolen away from him by wicked Paul Williams. Things happen where Wilson becomes the Phantom of the Paradise, which is a rock venue, and it's a musical, quasi-musical, and yeah, that's the gist of it.
Oh, so there's only like 10 songs, which blew me away and stuff, but they're all so
Yeah.
good.
They're incredible. And again, it's Paul Williams not only stars in the movie, but he also wrote, I think, most of the music, if not all.
I think,
he definitely wrote all
and
of
he sings a few tracks too.
He definitely wrote and sang a lot of the Phantom himself's music.
Yeah.
In the movie.
But as I already said, we all love this film.
Yes.
Does anyone want to give any general observations at the top about, we already talked to Ian a little bit about why he loves this movie.
Sure.
But does anyone else have anything they want to say?
Yeah, I had a couple of things talking about the vibe of this movie without giving any spoilers for people who might be on the fence just listening to the description. It is generally called a horror movie when it's described by people.
Sure.
Like a horror comedy, maybe. But that doesn't really capture what the vibe of the movie is. It's more of the best. What I kept thinking about when I was watching it was it's the closest thing that I've ever seen to a live action Looney Tunes short, where like the timing and the character writing and the character performances are just hitting these great musical notes that are not just in the way of that there's music, but just in that way we were talking about with Paddington 2, where everything is music. Absolutely just hit my brain in this perfect way, where even the main character, everyone in this movie is at once fascinating to watch and also just a jerk, including the main character. Like the even before he becomes the Phantom, the main character is not a great guy, but he's not a great guy in that sort of way that Daffy Duck is not a great guy, but you still kind of want him to succeed. And him not being a great guy makes it so that the fact that he keeps getting hit in the face with hammers doesn't hurt as much as it otherwise would if it was like, I don't know, Paul Newman getting hit in the face with hammers.
Oh my God.
And Luke.
He eats 50 hard-boiled eggs. And then the prisoners just
hit him with hammers.
Give us our eggs back.
And the other thing I thought was funny was I mentioned that we were doing this movie to my wife, Kaylee, and she said, "It can't be that weird. I've heard of this one."
You make it sound like this is a slapstick.
No, just the timing of things. There's definitely some slapstick humor in the opening, which is when I first started to notice this thing. But no, it's definitely not like as broad a comedy as Looney Tunes are, but the sort of the musicality and the timing with which people like Chuck Jones would construct their stories, I find to be very present in this film.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I want to assert before we get into spoilers and plot is, now granted, I have not seen Rocky Horror Picture Show in 20 years.
Right.
I watched it as a very young man. Still, I am 100% sure if we ever watch it for the show, I will like Phantom of the Paradise much better than Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Now, why do you feel the need to compare these two in particular?
Well, Phantom of the Paradise was 74.
Okay.
Rocky Horror Picture Show was 75.
Okay.
So they came out very close together. They're both kind of this, Rocky Horror is a little bit more sci-fi, but they're both horror, kind of campy musicals.
Sure. Okay.
I think they definitely could be pit head to head.
They are looped together in that a lot of people who like one like the other and that sort of thing. They're both like that particular era of midnight camp classics. I will give you that.
Gotcha.
And I think that they're both great, but I think in terms of like a story that hangs together, Phantom of the Paradise is the better story.
I think as far as movies with less rape. Phantom of the Paradise.
There's the couch scene in this.
That is quite a lot of rape.
True.
Yeah.
True. Not good, but also different than sneaking into someone's bed and having sex with them.
Sure.
I was gonna say, I definitely agree with Brad about the Rocky Horror. Like, we can talk about that later as well throughout the thing. But like, I compare them a lot too. I believe the stage adaptation of Rocky Horror was 1973.
Fair.
Which is interesting to see how that came first. But like, to compare the both, I would say the performances, I mean, I'm thinking like Tim Curry and stuff. Those iconic performances might be better, but for story, absolutely, Phantom definitely takes it. I think.
And
I think that's I think that kind of sums up my thoughts on it as well.
so is there anything else you'd like to say, Ian, before we start going into plot and spoilers?
I am interested in what do you guys like Phantom of the Opera? The musical, the book, or anything? Because that's what I was thinking about when I started the film.
I am a huge fan of the book Phantom of the Opera. I love the musical, and yeah, no, I think I love almost every version of Phantom I've seen. There are some very bad ones that I haven't seen, though. So I haven't, for instance, I have not seen Phantom of the Mall, the other Phantom of the Opera adaptation from around the same time.
That was 80s.
That's true, yeah. I haven't seen the Robert Englund Phantom of the Opera, in which it's just Freddie as the Phantom of the Opera.
I didn't even know that was
Hey, bitch, listen to my opera.
Pretty much, yeah. I haven't seen that one where that one director shot his daughter naked for most of the film and had her raped by rats. But
Oh,
not half of these.
yeah.
I thought it was like a horrible Brandon Lee situation where he shot his daughter.
Oh,
no.
That's where my mind immediately went.
No, it's Dario Argento has this weird thing about shooting his daughter naked in movies.
Yeah, that makes sense from just Dario Argento's vibe.
I've never seen a Dario Argento movie. I don't know what his vibe is.
I've seen Suspiria, which has a connection
Yes.
to Paradise.
There we go.
and Kevin Bacon.
As far as I go with Phantom, I've seen the musical on Broadway. I've never read the book. I saw the 2000s movie version. I am utterly ambivalent to it.
That's what the 2000s movie will do to you.
I cannot. I know there's a couple very famous songs from Phantom. Music of the Night.
Mm-hmm.
Music of the Night. That's a song.
That's a song from Phantom.
So yeah, I'm a Phantom super fan. But no, so this is probably the definitive version of Phantom of the Opera for me.
I have there's a YouTuber was very popular for a while until she sort of quit YouTube, Lindsay Ellis, who I was a great fan of for a long time. She was a huge Phantom of the Opera fan, and one could say Phantom of the Opera expert. And according to her, this is the greatest movie based on the Phantom of the Opera, bar none. It's not in any way close to the original story at all, but it is. Yeah, no, definitely way better than any Phantom of the Opera movie that I've seen, just in terms of a quality film. So, I mean, there's that. This is Lindsay Ellis approved.
I'd say I'm a huge fan of, like you, Billy. I'm a huge fan of the book. And I really like the Lon Chaney, is it junior or senior? The 1925 film.
See, yes, it's if it's a
See, this kid has chops.
Oh, he's got chops. No, Lon Chaney Sr. is the silent movie actor. Lon Chaney Jr. is the really tall guy who was a wolfman.
Okay. This movie, for me, as like a fan of Phantom, improves on the shortcomings of the original family opera, which is I didn't actually feel for the Phantom. I didn't feel for the Phantom as much when I first read or watched it, because it's like, I don't know who this guy is. He's creeping around and stuff. But this movie starts out with, you don't start with the Phantom. You start with, I think, is it Winslow?
Winslow Leach.
Winslow Leach.
It starts out with him, and you feel so much compassion for this guy who is scorned by Swan that I feel so much more for the Phantom for doing these creepy things and killing these people, because now I know why the origin of the Phantom is.
Sure. Resisting the urge to go on a diatribe about the brilliance of the character arc in the book, but I'm not going to talk about that because we're talking about Phantom of the Paradise.
The brilliant character, John Phantom. That's the name. In the book, that's the name, right? That's who he is?
Right, yeah, John Phantom.
And then
John Eloise Phantom. He's very embarrassed by his middle name. That's what drove him crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into
As
this.
I said, this is 1974. It's Brian DePalma. And if you would have asked me before I looked it up, I'd been like, yeah, this is probably De Palma's first film, second film. This is his 8th film.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
He has made many, many movies before this.
Crap.
Which makes sense because this is brilliant. Like, it's masterfully directed, written.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of Brian De Palma films recently, including Blowout and crap. What was the other one? The really weird one from early in his career.
Is it Obsession?
No.
Dressed to Kill.
Damn it! Now I feel like a fraud.
Sisters, Carrie,
that's it.
that weird obscure movie,
Obscure
Carrie.
film.
I couldn't. It is a very weird movie if you watch it again. But like, yeah, Carrie and Blowout and this, he's quickly like rising in the ranks of my favorite weird directors.
He has his moments
when he's on, he's really on. I
is.
still don't really like the first Mission Impossible movie, but you know,
Okay,
whatever.
Ian,
I
thoughts
don't
on
like
Brian De Palma?
Scarface. Oh, I was gonna say I don't like Scarface.
Scarface is too long by a half.
Oh my god, yeah. Like Al Pacino
I never
has some
finished
good
it.
parts, but oh,
Yeah, 'cause it's like 4 hours long.
I love Blowout.
Blowout is
yeah.
fantastic.
It is.
I love Blowout. I watched Carrie when I was a kid, probably younger than even this, but yeah, I liked that one. Speaking of Carrie, I actually have a Carrie connection.
Yeah.
Sissy Spacek, who was Carrie in the film, she was the film set dresser, and her husband was the production designer on the film.
for
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah.
Yes, for this film, and she
Awesome.
actually auditioned for Phoenix and didn't get it and everything.
Oh,
Mhm.
Interesting. Well, I mean, it worked out, I guess.
Yes, very much.
Because the sets in this movie are fucking fantastic, and she was amazing as Carrie. So,
Sissy Spacek seems to get a lot of work just by being around.
oh yeah,
I feel like that's how she got her role in Badlands, like
yeah.
Terrence Malick's breakout
Yeah.
movie.
No, that does seem to be Sissy Spacek's whole thing, and then
She's just there.
and then she got her role in The Ring 2 based on being Carrie. So you know,
yeah. We begin, and here's the movie's big flaw, in my opinion.
Okay.
We begin with a Rod Serling narration, a la the Twilight Zone.
So good.
Brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert: we do not get a closing narration.
Oh, that's true. We don't.
We
Oh,
get
I
a
never
great
thought about
song.
that.
We get my second favorite song in the movie, but before that, we should have got a little bit of a stinger by Rod Serling.
Hearing Rod Serling's voice immediately made me so happy.
Oh yeah, it's a great touch, and
The movie won me over before any shots could happen on screen just by doing this. And I love the kind of narration that he has. It sounds like he's narrating the behind the music documentary kind of situation. It's just sort of-
yeah. 20 years before it was a thing.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, that is brilliant.
Rod Serling lives in the Twilight Zone. He can see the future.
Yeah,
It's beyond time and space.
but here's something I wondered.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, Twilight Zone had stopped producing new episodes for 10 years.
Yes.
Twilight Zone feels so ingrained in my idea of culture,
Yeah.
your idea of culture. Ian, I don't
Absolutely.
know.
Oh,
How much it
huge
is-
Twilight Zone fan. I got the whole
Absolutely.
collection right here on my bookshelf.
But like, I wonder if was it in 74, was this sort of just like, was this like a really clever reference? Was this sort of hackneyed? Like,
right.
was
Like
this-
how
did it play at the time?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I guess was Night Gallery on the air yet?
I'm not sure.
I
Oh,
think that
yeah.
just the fact that not only did they want to have another anthology show in the 70s with Rod Serling doing the narration, and that they made Rod Serling do the narration, despite the fact that Rod Serling has always hated doing narration.
Oh, did he?
Oh, I didn't know that.
He only did the narration for the Twilight Zone because they could not get anyone else.
Because they would hide his cigarettes if he did
They
it.
would. That's exactly right. Well,
Would you do it for a ciggy snack?
but no, I think that just the fact that was the case, I think that at this point they probably were. He was probably already just as iconic as we think of him as.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
But Rod, as I call him,
Right.
He said, "You guys are buddies."
we are still to this day. His corpse is in my basement.
Yeah, of course.
I go down. We play Tetris Attack competitively, and I always win because I'm really good.
Right.
And he's a moldering corpse. But Rod tells us about Swan, the world's greatest music producer. And he's looking for the next big thing that will herald the birth of his new venue, the Paradise. Now I'm going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Right out the gate, we get my favorite song in the movie.
Mm.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, that
Okay.
surprises me
Yes.
a lot.
It's a very good movie.
The
And it's a very good song.
the first time I watched this,
Mm-hmm.
this was really the only song that stood out to me.
Interesting.
And this time I like the music a lot better.
Yeah.
But this one was it I don't know what it is. I can't explain it, but I love this song called Goodbye Eddie Goodbye.
It's pretty great.
It's sung by the Juicy Fruits, a 50s throwback band.
And I know what you're asking yourselves, dear listeners. And the answer is yes. We do get to hear Rod Serling say the name, the Juicy Fruits.
Yes.
Yes.
We learned that Swan is single-handedly responsible for the Juicy Fruits through Swan are responsible for the 50s nostalgia wave of the 70s. So in a way, Swan is responsible for Happy Days.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Swan's greatest creation, Henry Winkler.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I do kind of want to see Henry Winkler play the Winslow Leach now, though.
Oh my God, that'd be amazing.
He'd be great. He'd be incredible.
He's great in anything.
The song Goodbye Eddie Goodbye is about Eddie Mitty, born in Jersey City, whose father just cream pied his mom and then was out the door. That's in the lyrics. I'm not being crass.
No,
it's in the lyrics.
Oh
that is true.
God.
But his sister needs an operation. So the only thing Eddie can think of is, if I die, my record will go to #1 and we'll have money for the operation.
Because he needs an overnight success in order to get the amount of money that they need for the operation.
Yes. Now, there's a weird quirk to this song where about halfway through, the lead singer stops singing and starts just narrating. And his speaking voice is like someone sort of doing a stereotypical Mexican cholo type. And it's so bizarre. He's like,
so weird.
I have it written down when it does that, and I'm like, oh, this song's jamming. WTF is this accent?
because these are very white men.
Yes.
And he's like, his sister, Mary Louise, with a terrible disease. It's like half Mexican, half pirate. And here's something that I cannot take credit for this. YouTube user Reed Heidler points out that this opening song establishes a main theme of the movie.
Yes.
Which is that you can trade human life for success.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have a theory about what. Well, one, the song slaps. I don't think that this is either Ian or mine's favorite song of the movie based on our mutual reaction to you saying that, but it absolutely slaps. It's great. I also noticed maybe this is part of why you like it so much. I don't know. The arc of this song did kind of remind me of the best death metal band.
Okay.
The Mountain Goat song.
Sort of, I guess.
Just sort of like this story song about like people who were trying to be big and then and the tragedies that befell them, sort of thing. It reminded me of Mountain Goats when I was listening to it. Not in the vibes or like the musicality of it, but just like the sort of the tragic story.
Gotcha. Any thoughts on this song, Ian?
So you guys have covered how great the song is. I'd like to talk about the people in the background.
Sure.
Oh my God.
The only thing I can think of is when the guy's going to the accent, the guitarist takes out his cigarette, runs over to the drummer, and lets him smoke his cigarette. And they just start beating each other up. And it's amazing.
I didn't notice that, but I did notice that one of the other singers in the band just starts running over and just randomly assaulting a woman in the audience.
Well, first he assaults a man.
Oh, okay.
And then the other one assaults a woman in a different way.
And then like comes back with her bra.
But I did notice the bassist just like having a cigarette. Just
I love that he's like has to run over and help his buddy out with a cigarette.
But as they're performing, we see Winslow Leach, very guerrilla style, glue his sign over the Juicy Fruits banner. Winslow Leach at the piano.
Yeah, and immediately you get the sense for Winslow Leach's character. He's so, again, the sort of Daffy Duckness of him. He's just like it's not just that he's like, oh, I'm here too.
No, he's better than the Juicy Fruits.
Not only is he here, he's a real artist, and he's like angrily slathering the glue over this thing with this face of like, I'll show them all.
After the Juicy Fruits perform, they look up to a dark balcony and receive a few claps from white-gloved hands.
There's like a few seconds of silence between when they stop performing and when the claps happen, and there's a sort of sense of like
A Roman emperor
Yes.
at the Colosseum.
it's like, are the
Thumbs up or thumbs
will
sideways.
the Juicy Fruits live today? Sort of vibes.
The Juicy Fruits always live. They're the cockroaches.
They truly are. I was just attending Blobfest not too long ago, so this movie starting off with rockabilly vibes right off the bat was really good for me.
Oh, well, wait till we do Six String Samurai. You're going to get all the rockabilly you can handle.
Oh, I think rockability. I think you got it right the first time. Gonna have all the rockability I can.
In that same balcony, a man named Arnold Philbin bemoans the loss of a singer named Annette. Arnold is gross and sucks.
His last name Philbin is actually named after the actress who played Christine, the main love interest in the original Phantom of the Opera, in the Phantom of the Opera silent movie with Lon Chaney Sr. that Ian mentioned earlier. And yes, he sucks so hard.
He might be worse than Swan. Arnold is played by George Mamoli, who Wikipedia describes as corpulent.
Oh,
I know.
what?
Like,
Wikipedia.
imagine.
What did he ever do to Wikipedia?
Corpulent.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. He asks the other man, the clapping man, Swan, to break Annette. Swan says there's more important things. Meanwhile, Winslow has taken the stage and has begun to sing and play piano. Swan watches, and Winslow is played by William Franklin Finley.
Before we get too far here, do we ever find out who Annette is?
It's not important.
Yeah, she's just like some singer that they've dealt with in the past.
It's just there to illustrate that, like, they can bring people up and how gross Philbin is and terrible.
And how gross and just sort of disgusting the whole music industry is.
And how much power Swan has that he can be like, ruin her.
Yeah.
Like Phoenix 1.0 is kind of how I read that. Like the original Phoenix before like everything that happens to Phoenix.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's right.
There have been a lot of Phoenixes.
Yeah,
and a lot of Annettes.
The whole vibe of the scene, especially with the fact that like Phoenix is not seen, you don't see Phoenix's face for this entire sequence.
Yes.
You just kind of are looking directly at Philbin. It felt very much like the opening of The Godfather to me.
Yeah, I think that was definitely supposed to. I don't recall when Godfather came out.
Not off the top of my head, but I know that DePalma and Coppola are considered part of the same sort of like film students coming up.
Makes
sort
sense.
Of wave that happened in the 70s. Also, Phoenix's record company is called Death Records, and its symbol is a dead bird, which I thought was just incredible.
Yeah, it's
so
great.
You said about the dead bird. I actually have this as well. Could you guys want to talk about the bird's symbolism in the film? That's something I thought of bringing. You got Swan, and then you got Phoenix.
Yeah,
and you got the dead bird logo. The Phantom's costume is very bird-like.
He looks like a space owl.
He did.
Yes. And Beef wears a tail. And one of the things, he has like a little duck tail thing.
I didn't notice.
I did not notice that either. Holy
There's
shit.
a lot of birds.
There's an awful lot of birds.
And obviously birds, known for singing.
Right.
Yes,
So it's a nice visual leitmotif.
And known for screwing each other over with recording contracts.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Very avian activity.
Good looking out, Ian.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What do you think about Winslow's first song, our first introduction to Faust?
I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this song.
The impression I got on my first watch was that we hear this song over and over and over again, which we really don't. We hear it a couple times.
Varietals on this song.
But I was like, oh, this is the only song we ever hear, which is not true.
No.
So that's something that changed for me on this watch.
I also, from what I understood, like this part of it was a part that Paul Williams took very seriously when he was. I don't know if he wrote all of the music for the movie, but he definitely wrote the Faust cantata and the varietals therein, and he was essentially tasked by Brian DePalma. I want you to write a super meaningful song along this theme, and then I want you to rip it apart over the course of various versions of it, are each just
more and more soulless,
increasingly soulless and bad. And Paul Williams was like, "That sounds like an incredible thing to do." My God,
Paul
I've gotta
Williams
do this.
stepped up on a couple phone books Said,
Short
"Mr.
King Paul
DePalma
Williams.
got a deal."
And he did an incredible job, but apparently like it was like a real sort of like head spin for him to try and figure out how to do that.
I bet it was a lot of fun for a composer,
Yeah.
lyricist.
I think Paul Williams is a genius. I'll just say
Yeah,
that.
he's great.
Yeah.
I thought this song was just okay. Like, I don't mind it, but it's not my favorite.
It's got a very Bob Dylan-y sort of like, or maybe Billy Joel kind of vibe to it, where Winslow is not the greatest singer in the world. He's fine,
No.
but he's not incredible. And he's just real, but he's really put his heart and soul into these like Joker and the Thief style lyrics.
A little bit, a couple notes down, I referred to him as a mid-tier Warren Zevon.
I really like the song, not as much as some other ones, but I find it really interesting that this is actually William Finley singing for this song.
Yeah,
Awesome.
But when the other Faust comes in, it's Paul Williams, because when he changes his voice. So I find it interesting, like that whole thing. You talked about Warren Zevon. I said William Finley's doing a full-on Stevie Wonder impression in this song.
That's right. Yeah, because he keeps like just sort of like he's really into the music,
Yeah.
man. He's really into it.
He's feeling it.
Yeah.
My main problem with this is one, Swan loves it.
Yes.
He's enraptured.
He's like this isn't the voice to open the paradise, but this is the music
This is
to
the
open
music.
the paradise.
But this is apparently the perfect song to open his rock palace. Like, it's not a bad song. It's not my favorite off the soundtrack, but it's like, it's not a rocker. Like, it's not like fucking Goodbye Eddie, the Sha-na-na bullshit rocks harder than Faust. Like, it's
like hearing the original version of I Took a Pill in Ibiza and being like, that's gonna open my dance club.
Oh my god.
The other thing that distracted me was like, clearly Winslow is not a part of this show.
Yeah.
But security is just like,
yeah.
no, let him play.
Yeah, I was super confused by that. Is this like an open mic night? Is he crashing their party? What the fuck
He
is
brought his
happening
own
here?
piano. Much like a Looney Tune.
Acme instant piano, just add water. Whoop. There it is.
About William Finley, he's really good in this, in my opinion. Like,
everyone's great, I think.
What else has he been in? I've never seen him in anything else.
I looked up pretty much everybody's credits.
Yeah.
And unless I like recognize something, I didn't really note it. So he hasn't been in a lot. Like, he's
from what I understand, he was friends with Brian DePalma and like maybe one other very significant director, and he was in a lot of their stuff, not usually in the lead role.
Usually like voice credits and stuff.
Yeah, but like not a huge career, but there were like certain people who really liked him. Kind of like the guy who played Eraserhead.
Jack Nance.
Jack Nance. Yeah. A lot of Lynch stuff, not a lot outside of that.
And that spanking porn.
Okay.
Yeah, Jack Nance was in like a spanking fetish video.
Okay.
Where he spanked a lady.
New episode, boys.
Oh God. By the rules of the charter of this podcast, now that we've mentioned it, we have to cover it. So
get David Lynch on for that episode.
Let me tell you, Jack Nance could spank with the best of them. I said, Jack, I see your form in the movie. I need to feel it.
Yes, David Lynch shadow directed the spank.
I've been rewatching. This is completely off topic for a second, but I've been rewatching Gravity Falls, and I learned that David Lynch was asked to play Bill Cipher,
really,
and said no, and he instead went and did the Cleveland show.
What a bitch!
Okay,
instead of playing Bill Cipher, which is a Lynch impression. I never really read it as that, but then the creator said that, and I was like, okay,
sure. I just lost a little bit of respect for David Lynch.
Right? Can you imagine him as Bill Cipher?
That would have been great.
I honestly, I haven't gotten to the point in Gravity Falls where Bill Cipher shows up. It's okay. I know that he exists, but that's annoying. That's annoying.
That's troublesome.
Yeah.
And you should watch Gravity Falls. It's great.
I'm in the middle of it. I haven't gotten to the Bill Cipher part yet.
So Philbin goes to talk to Winslow. Swan's interested, he says. And Winslow is excited because that means the whole world will hear his music.
Yes.
Arnold lies and says, that's the game plan exactly. But they need to polish his work.
Right. Yeah.
And his work is a 200 to 300 page cantata. First off, very wide margin, which does not give me a lot of faith in Winslow's grasp on reality already. That he's like, yeah, it's between 200 and 300 pages.
Yeah, sure.
Second, Internet Dictionary defines cantata as not a delicious Mexican dish, but as a narrative piece of music of medium length, not the fucking Wagner's Ring Cycle with instrumental accompaniment.
Right.
Also, at 200 to 300 pages, it's unfinished. And now I'm rattling off these details like I'm zinging the movie.
Right.
But I am 100% sure that Brian DePalma was intentional in all of these details.
I'm willing to believe that for sure. I'm willing to buy that. I honestly, it's weird because you listen to the song in the movie, and it's a good song. It lasts again about 3 minutes, like a normal pop song. And then he has that whole thing where he's like, it's between 200 to 300 pages, and it's like da 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 da. This is a rock opera meant to take an entire week. That's that sort of thing. And I guess so believed in the reality of the film that when I was listening to the soundtrack today, I assumed that that song was actually like a 7-minute rock dirge and was only 3 minutes. And I was like, wow, I so believed in the reality of who Winslow Leach was and what he wanted the song to be that I just in my head edited this song into a 12-minute masterpiece.
I'd say the little bit of Winslow we learn a lot about him, like obviously about his genius and music virtuoso and that whole thing, but like he freaks out on that guy, and like you can see his anger is at the drop of a pen and everything.
He does, which we're about to get to.
Yeah.
Also, it's a Faust story.
Yes.
Great. Not enough of those. Winslow's ultimate point is he can't just like break off some songs to give to Swan.
No.
Arnold, and as you mentioned, he's about to freak out on Philbin because Philbin says, "Oh, the juicy fruits are gonna love it." And Winslow like presses them against the wall. And again, this is a man that Wikipedia has described as corpulent. Imagine Winslow's raw strength. God, I feel so bad for George Mamoli. That's his it even lists like his weight.
Oh like, God, that's kind of shitty.
It's super shitty. Who edits? Like, does George Mamoli's childhood bully edit the Wikipedia page?
Can you imagine a director with like a big cigar in the mouth? I need a corpulent actor.
Makes him do the truffle shuffle as a casting couch thing.
The whole truffle shuffle bit was based almost note for note on the casting process for this character. They wouldn't even open the door to the studio until you did it.
Oh Lord. But
what a nightmare.
Winslow is the only one who can sing Faust.
Yes.
Arnold says he thinks they're going to produce his first album. Flash forward 1 month.
I love that editing right there. Like, there's some parts of the editing we'll get into probably later. The editing is probably my least favorite, with like the writing, directing, music. It's whatever. But I love that editing where we're gonna do your album in and then it's 1 month later.
It's a very classic.
It's a
rug pull.
Yeah, it's that I'm not gonna wear a dress. I'm not gonna wear a dress. Cut, and the guy's wearing a dress, waving at the enemy soldiers.
Now here's where I noted that the logo of Death Records with the bird on its back, dead, is very similar to the cover of Chuck Palahniuk's book Lullaby.
Oh,
coincidence? Yes, almost assuredly.
I can't get over how much I love Death Records because it seems like it could be a real record label, and at the same time is such a great send up of the record industry in the name, and having like, again, because as Ian just pointed out, all these characters are birds of some kind or one kind or another, and to have like a dead bird, it's just a corpse of any of these characters in the logo itself.
Oh my God, Winslow is a space owl because he's a creature of the night.
Oh shit. He is vengeance. He is the night. He is Owlman.
But
Actually, I just realized Grant Morrison's version of Owlman from his run on Justice League looks scary similar to Winslow Leach as the Phantom in this movie.
knowing Grant Morrison, it is almost assuredly a reference.
Yeah, probably.
I was gonna say I have some comments on his helmet, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, sure.
Winslow goes to Swan Song Enterprises. So interesting thing.
Yes.
Swan Song Enterprises, original name of Swan's record label.
Yes.
But they ran into conflict because Swan Song is the name of Led Zeppelin's label.
Yes.
So they had to change it to Death Records.
It, again, just makes me love Death Records even more that it was such a last minute choice and it's so perfect. There is one incredibly funny moment that happens later. We'll get to it.
Yes. We learned that Winslow has not been in contact with Philbin or Swan during the month.
Mhm.
What's more, his file at the receptionist desk has, in big bold letters, it says "never to be seen," which is such a great gag.
This is where I started to notice the Looney Tunes-esque nature of things.
Okay, I can see it.
Where
there.
it's like, if you imagine, like instead of Winslow Leach, you have Porky Pig. Like, I just want to see Mr. Jack Warner. He told me he produced my cartoons, and it's like, and then they shoot him out of a cannon or something, you know. I think immediately after she checks the file, it cuts to him smiling,
he's being ejected.
It cuts to him smiling at her. She smiles at him, and then he's ejected. At that point, again, it's that sort of like the build up, and then there's the pitch. The timing is perfect. And at this point, I wrote a note down: the vibes of this movie are immaculate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Winslow is promptly ejected, as I mentioned, but he follows Swan's car to his mansion, which we will learn is called the Swannage. And I have some interesting facts about Swannage later.
Okay.
Not the building. The place in Dorset, England.
Oh, God. Ooh. I'm surprised that his car isn't called the Swanmobile.
Oh.
I was going to say, Billy brought up Looney Tunes for the when he's getting ejected. When he comes in, we're to the point where he gets onto the estate. If we're in there, when he comes in, he hides behind a tree when the guards are coming, and he tries to hide there. I was like, oh, that was that. Like I saw, I was like, oh, that's so Looney Tunes. Like someone just hiding there.
That's a great bit.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. What's up?
I don't understand this note. Not only do I not understand it, it's so confusing that I can't even work backwards.
Read it out and we'll see if we can figure it out here.
But it's a joke to myself about the lack of clarity of my use of pronouns.
Okay.
So here's the note verbatim.
This is all staying in, by the way.
But he follows Swan's car to his mansion.
Yes.
Swan's mansion, not Winslow's. It's my belief that in this universe, in the universe of the movie, everyone except prisoners live in mansions. I just apparently decided to have a little bit of fun with myself. And this is how I'll text some people, is I'll over clarify what I'm saying. So I apparently just did that in my notes.
Brad comes up with bits at a speed that even he cannot keep up with.
Which usually when we have guests, we don't do as many bits.
Sure.
Because we're chattering a bit more. We hear another song that the captions tell me is also by the Juicy Fruits, even though it sounds more like average 70s folk rock.
Yes.
Still a good song about meeting the devil.
Yes.
I like this song.
It's only like a 2-second song snippet, but it's great.
Yeah. Inside, Winslow finds a lot of women lined up to audition.
Mm-hmm.
Winslow approaches one woman as she practices, like a creep would do.
Yes.
Right? He's so creepy in this scene.
Yeah.
It's so creepy.
He's
hey, you're singing my song.
I'm the composer of that.
He's a real Norman Bates type,
which he doesn't even have proof of, and sounds like a line.
Yeah, no.
I have here a gullible Queen Phoenix, where she's just like, "Yeah, no, you wrote that, definitely."
I also love just the presumption the presumption, like coming up to this woman who's like trying for an audition, like very few people make it through in the music industry, and she's like really trying, she wants to get this right, and he comes up and is like, sing that again, and she's like, excuse me, he's like, just do it. Like, you motherfucker, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, no. And I'm going to say it now.
Go for it.
Jessica Harper, who I assume did her own singing. I'm not sure.
She's the lady from Suspiria.
She is the lady from Suspiria.
I looked it up. She did.
Oh, wonderful.
Because I loved her singing so much, and I was like, is that
She's
her?
Great.
It's so good.
She's a good singer. But there are a lot of good singers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Winslow's idea is like, oh, she gets the music.
Yeah.
But the vibe I get is Winslow just likes dark-haired ladies.
If she would have sang, like, the little spoil, but if she would have sang later, like the other song she does in the movie is the one that made me love. If she did that, then I would be completely on board and be like, okay, now I see why he's into the music. She kind of sings like everyone else is.
Yeah, but
in this scene,
granted, she's just sort of like practicing, warming up. She's not really performing,
right? But
which I think lends credence to the idea that Winslow's sort of just creeping more than anything.
Yeah,
you got a lot of blondes, not a lot of dark-haired ladies, and Winslow is sort of like, "Hey, you sound good. You really get my music. Also, you're a sexy lady."
Yeah. This sort of a running thing in any version of the Phantom where you can hear the music in it. So not the book, but is that Christine, many of them in the book, the idea that the Phantom is a sympathetic character is kind of an end of book twist. Most of it, he's just kind of a serial killer. Yeah. And then at the end of the movie, it's like, oh, I guess he was just very lonely. So that's sort of a twist at the end of the book. But most versions that have been made since then.
So the Phantom is just an incel?
Absolutely.
That is who. I see why you love this book now.
That is. Because I relate to it so much.
Yeah.
No.
It's kind of a book of incels, because Raoul's an incel too.
Oh yeah, no, Raoul's a total incel.
Oh, fucking Raoul! I'm part of this discussion.
Persian, Brad. What do you think about the Persian?
Oh, the Persian, my favorite kind of rug. Look at us talking about Phantom of the Opera, the book.
But yeah, the entire book is just Christine desperately trying to survive, caught between two horrible incels. But in most versions where you can hear the music, they take more of the Phantom side with things and tell more of his side of the story.
Yeah.
And in all of these, you're supposed to come away with this idea that Christine is this amazing, beautiful, incredible singer. But you can only cast a human being to sing any song, and human beings can only sing as good as human beings can. So there's always this sort of thing where like people are watching these movies or listening to this music, and it's like, I guess Sarah Brightman's fine, like that sort of thing. I do think that it does come down to, at the end of the day, again, the original Phantom, huge asshole, a creep, and an incel, and I think that that's probably the better take for the character in the book and in this movie, is just that, like, oh my god, pretty woman that I'm attracted to is singing my music, she must be incredible, she is also good, but
essentially my point. The main takeaway is that while Winslow is creeping, being like, that's my music, Phoenix, I believe, rightly says, your name's not on it, because obviously Swan has erased all traces of Winslow Leach,
of course,
as being the originator. I guess he found it in a basket among the reeds.
This element of the Phantom being a fairly normal, if sort of ragey dude who has a piece of music that he wrote stolen from him and then goes crazy, is an element that was introduced into the story of the Phantom of the Opera in the 1940s version starring Claude Rains, and was adapted into this version of the film.
Look at you knowing things.
Yes.
Well, Brad, when you said Winslow's being creepy, I wrote down this line. I'm pretty sure this is his. I would never let my personal desires affect my aesthetic judgment.
Yes!
Oh,
I love that line.
Oh,
right?
And that is a line.
That is some of the most, I don't know, like
it's just this pretentious.
Yes, this pretentious.
Douche, like
Yeah.
Something from like Shakespeare, like something that like even Billy, when we did Tempest, like what Ferdinand would do to try to get with a girl or something. It'd be something like a guy would like a Shakespearean character try to get with a girl with.
Absolutely.
It's just this like it's just a person like, oh, I'm so deep.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Oh, I'm so deep.
That's exactly what it is. It's like I wrote a poem for you, kind of energy.
And here's a great bit of fly in the ointment where Phoenix, instead of being like, oh, this is amazing, she's like, hey, can you help me get into the chorus?
Yes.
Right?
It was great, which is a great bit of character. She is not made into this like Madonna.
Yeah.
She is a person who wants to succeed in show business.
I love the character of Phoenix so much because at the end of the day, no matter how much Winslow Leach is, again, Madonna projecting this sort of Christine-esque virgin whore complex onto her. At the end of the day, Phoenix is just Phoenix.
She wants to succeed in show business.
She's just some person.
Every turn.
Yeah, she wants to further her career. She wants to be a big-time singer. And I love that she never loses sight of that. That's what she's about.
I found it interesting that when I looked up, like I think Jessica Harper is great in this. I've only seen her in Suspiria. I love Suspiria. It's one of the other films I gave to Brad for this. I love that film. But Linda Ronstadt was supposed to be the original, and I cannot see that.
Who help me out?
Linda Ronstadt was a singer in the 70s.
Okay,
I can't think of it like any of her big.
She's not an actress. No, yeah, just a singer.
Wasn't even an actress.
Just a pop singer. Yeah.
Wow. I think they went with the right choice,
but also an attractive dark-haired lady.
So there's a theme.
Brian DePalma.
This movie was directed by Ron Swanson.
Winslow tries to get into the auditions, but he is stopped by a man who looks like Greaser Rich Evans.
You said that, and now I can't imagine what this guy looks like. I can only think of Greaser Rich Evans.
He looks like that, buddy.
All I think of is Rich Evans in like a Grease production where like he's snapping and he's like singing Summer Lovin' and something.
For whatever reason, you said that, and I immediately imagined Rich Evans as Rizzo.
I'm pregnant!
Oh my God! However, through sneakery, Winslow follows his new singer friend, and we see what kind of audition it really is. Philbin is just having a big orgy.
A big old rape orgy on a couch. It's literally just like a little broom closet with a couch in it. They throw a woman down. He jumps on top of her, and then we don't see what happens after that, but we can imagine. Not quite as traumatizing because this movie is a little bit lighter than Last Night in Soho, but similar vibe.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the casting couch.
It's the casting couch. It's the famous casting couch.
But this is a casting circular bed. Winslow is ejected by Greaser Rich Evans and Hollywood Hank Williams Jr.
I love these new Batman villains we're creating today.
These are great.
You heard of Hollywood Hulk Hogan. Just wait for Hollywood Hank Williams Jr. He's going to smoke a joint and crush a beer can on his head. We see a bunch of ladies on a big circular bed that would make Austin Powers proud. Being monitored by a CC camera, the ladies begin to engage with each other lesbianly.
Because they know that
Swan likes to watch.
Swan likes to watch. Yeah. As is repeatedly brought up, Swan has every building that he owns under constant surveillance.
Yes.
And he's constantly watching everything that goes on.
A door opens, smoke billows out. It's Swan. Ooh, what's this? Winslow Leach has somehow disguised himself as a lady. Again, very Looney Tunes.
Very Looney Tunes.
And
I'm telling you.
Snuck his way in.
Also, oh my God, what a great bit.
We finally get our first good look at Swan. As we mentioned, Swan is played by Paul Williams, a huge songwriter. In addition to what we mentioned, he wrote and scored Bugsy Malone.
I was going to bring that up because I was supposed to be in a production of Bugsy Malone as Bugsy Malone, directed by a friend of all three of ours, Derek Scott.
Sure.
That didn't turn out, but that's kind of everything I thought of when I saw Paul Williams. I was like, oh, that's that guy. So I still haven't seen Bugsy Malone. I need to.
You need to watch it too.
But
It's very big in British culture.
Apparently,
Yeah,
Of
I
a
learned
certain
that.
age.
apparently Bugsy Malone is just like a huge blank space for all of us because I haven't seen it either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, it's a big. My first exposure to it was an oblique reference in the Simon Pegg, Jessica Stevenson show, directed by Edgar Wright, Spaced, where there's a reference to Bugsy Malone. I was like, "What is this? Oh, a musical about the gangster Bugsy Malone with all children." Okay,
Oh my god!
but
Yeah, it has like Scott. Oh, sorry. It has like Scott Baio in it. Jodie Foster. Scott Baio. Yeah, Scott Baio is Bugsy Malone, and Jodie Foster is Tallulah in it and stuff.
What the hell?
But before, like, I mean,
Jodie Foster had such a weird childhood
well, yeah, she was in like Taxi Driver, obviously,
as a child prostitute.
Yeah.
and then she probably went to Bugsy Malone, and then she's like, and then I don't know when, but then you got Silence of the Lambs, and you got all this, and like,
Yeah,
She's had an incredible career.
but
Yeah.
most importantly, Paul Williams is the lyricist for Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Yes.
My favorite thing among my favorite things. It's one of my. I love Emmett Otter.
Great.
It's so fucking good.
It's so
I have no idea what this is.
Oh man,
it's one of the greatest. So the Muppets have made a dozen Christmas things.
Jim
Okay.
Henson has made it.
Jim, that's true.
This is not specifically Muppets, even though there are Muppets in it.
They
They're puppets.
It's
And-
a Muppet production. There are no Muppet characters in it aside from I think a Kermit the Frog cameo at the very beginning.
Maybe.
But it's not a story involving any of the Muppet characters. It's just Emmett Otter
And his friends.
and his mother trying to win a battle of the bands in their hometown. And it has the music in it is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, because it's Paul Williams.
It's only
It's
like
Paul
30
Williams.
minute long. I cannot recommend it strongly enough.
It's a
I'm
great.
gonna have to watch this like
thing.
tonight.
Do it. Do it. I
Do it.
love it. It's
Christmas in July.
it's like my favorite Christmas thing. One of my favorite Christmas things.
Other than
After
the Grither.
seasons of Seasons of Belief.
Yeah,
If we ever do Emmett Otter, we have to have Spring on to talk about it.
I was gonna say we'll probably need to have Kaylee on it too because that's like a huge.
We
thing
should
for her.
do our first 4-person episode.
We're gonna have to have a whole chorus of people, the whole crew. Ian's gonna come in because he'll have seen it by then.
Yeah, sure. Well, this will be our Christmas extravaganza.
Oh
that
my
year,
god. Yeah.
This year.
Anyone who's not talking at that moment will just be humming Christmas carols in the background for ambiance.
There we go.
River Bottom Nightmare Band.
Oh my god. So good. So
Swan.
weirdly metal Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Swan, who, because he's played by Paul Williams, is a tiny Paul Williams man
Yes.
who looks like an upper middle-aged lesbian.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Has Winslow ejected and beaten,
Mhm.
and then 2 cops, maybe the only black people we see in this movie,
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Probably.
the only 2 prominent ones,
Mm-hmm.
find Winslow, plant drugs on him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how the tables have turned.
Oh. So it's now the aftermath of realizing that I said I was an incel on a recording, and this are now the 2 most uncomfortable moments I've had today.
No, you know what I mean. Usually,
No, I know what you mean.
usually white cops are planting drugs on black people.
No, I get the joke.
But Winslow is very quickly sentenced to life in Sing Sing prison. How ironic, Sing Sing.
Sing Sing. Oh my
Yeah.
god, I didn't get the pun until just now.
I did. I rolled my eyes.
What'd you say?
I said I rolled my eyes watching it.
Yeah.
It was
He could have gotten sent to Rikers,
yeah.
but they sent him to Sing Sing.
This is one of my favorite courtroom scenes now, up there with the courtroom scene from Crybaby. It's only like 5 seconds at most, if not like maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and it's literally just a gigantic American flag, like in the opening of Patton. And the judge says, "Guilty!" Bang! And Winslow turns to the camera and says, "Swan, free me!" And it just hard cut to Sing Sing, and I was just like, slow clap for that. That was incredible.
In prison, Winslow is forcibly conscripted into a program where all his teeth are pulled out and replaced with metal ones, courtesy of the Swan Corporation.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
And at a tiddlywink assembly line in prison, Wilson loses his shit hearing a radio broadcast about the Juicy Fruit singing Faust at the opening of the Paradise.
Yeah.
Wilson escapes prison and storms the gates of Death Records, causing massive damage.
I just want to point out that the warden of the prison that he just escaped from, the warden of Sing Sing's name was V. Gross, and I liked that.
Okay.
Yes.
I wanted to point out two things before you go into when he goes into the next scene and everything. Les Mis vibes absolutely for me in the warehouse when he's
yeah.
in the beginning of Les Mis. And then also, this could be Looney Tune. I wrote Monty Python-esque, but it could be Looney Tune as well. He escapes in a box. And when he gets in the box and he falls out, he like opens up and starts running.
So Winslow's plan is to blow up the record press.
Yes.
Which is for some reason located at the corporate headquarters of Death Records with dynamite that he got from somewhere.
That was what the box was. He was in.
He was. You know how they have prisoners make dynamite,
right? He was in a box of Acme dynamite.
Yes,
and he grabbed the dynamite, brought it with him. It was on its way to go help Wile E. Coyote kill the Roadrunner, and instead he got it.
What ends up happening is his head is caught in the record press, and his face is disfigured. Which apparently almost happened to Finley.
What I was going to bring up, yeah.
Yeah, they were testing it out, and he almost got his head crushed.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
I guess his scream in the movie like actually was him in real life because it started to hit his head and he jumped out really quick. So like that scream was not acting. Like that was actually...
From what I understand, the shot in the movie is the moment when he almost died. Like is the bit because like I think they only did it once. Because
I hope so.
Can you imagine Brian DePalma being like, "You almost died. Get back in there. We're doing it again."
But Brian De Palma was like told up and down, "This is perfectly safe. It's perfectly fine," and then it just wasn't.
Yeah.
When they went to shoot the thing,
Winslow lurches outside and falls into the river.
I think you mean Winslow leaches outside. I don't know. It was a dumb joke.
Yeah.
You said Winslow lurches outside. My brain said, that's almost like his name. And then I just
Gotcha.
Winslow leaches outside.
Yeah, no, great joke.
Winslow
we all loved it.
Leaches outside.
Yeah, no, keep going.
Winslow leaches outside. Okay.
He is presumed dead. But he is not dead.
With the record press stuff, I don't know how you guys feel. I think the visual effects for the record press was really good. Like on his face and stuff. I thought for 1974, I thought that would look really good and stuff.
Yeah. The scar effects, you mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It looks fantastic. I wrote down he's become the Two-Face of the Paradise.
Yes.
Yes.
Which also, the idea of the Phantom only having part of his face scarred as opposed to his entire face is something that shows up again in the 1940s version of Phantom of the Opera. It's most famously known for being in the Broadway version of the Phantom, but this, of course, predates that by several years.
Gotcha.
So, hey, pretty cool.
Yeah.
But Winslow Leach is not dead. He's alive and breathing like Darth Vader.
I wrote the same note.
3 years before Darth Vader was a thing.
I also wrote that note.
I mean, George.
Hey, I like that breathing thing, Brian. I think I'll, mind if I take that? Mind if I just snatch that up?
Shame if I took it.
You know, Joseph Campbell tells me that this is okay.
I mean, George Lucas famously stole from everybody, so I wouldn't be surprised. Oh my God, he even wears a helmet and a black cape in this movie.
Yep. He does.
Oh my God. George Lucas. Brian De Palma's going to sue somebody.
Yeah, no, now's the time to really capitalize on that.
Yeah.
Even though Brian De Palma stole like most of his stuff from Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So like,
exactly.
Winslow sneaks backstage at the Paradise and steals a costume and mask. The Juicy Fruits are rehearsing a song. This time as they're called the Beach Bums.
Yes.
In the credits. And they're sort of like a Beach Boys thing. They're playing surf music.
I do like the fact that the juicy fruits are constantly being reinvented into new groups.
Yes.
And very much reflecting the real life practice of record companies, especially in the 70s. Not so much now, but especially in the 70s of just taking the same group and just like remarketing them again and again and again and again as different styles of thing.
Now, Ian, you called out the editing earlier, but here I think we get the best editing in the movie.
It's a classic Brian DePalma move.
And by which we mean a classic Alfred Hitchcock move.
Yeah.
When did Alfred Hitchcock to
not a split screen, but this idea of like, the bomb's gonna go off.
It's a Brian DePalma spin.
I was talking about the split screen because the editing for the split screen. I mean, that's Brian De Palma's thing, but that was really cool. I will say.
Wilson Plant. I will not call him the derogatory name of the Phantom. I'm not going to buy into this media bullshit where we call him the Phantom.
Winslow it is.
Winslow Leach. He has a name, and he's a murderer. But Winslow plants a bomb in the Juicy Fruits prop car.
Yes.
And here we get a split screen where the left-hand side, the sinister side, follows the bomb. The entire time it's focused on the trunk of the car where the bomb is planted. And the right-hand side, we watch the Juicy Fruits perform, or the Beach Bums, or whatever.
Yes.
And even after the car is brought on stage, we're still following... It's still a split screen.
Yeah.
Until it explodes. And then the right-hand side is just Swan's face. Sort of impassive.
Yeah.
Like, sort of just mildly displeased.
I wrote this down. Yeah, he's stone-faced. He's like, I read it as like he's like doesn't care. Like this whole thing just got blown up.
It's just sort of a bother because like when, as we're going to find out, when you've made a deal with the devil, like for immortality, like a lot of shit is just sort of a minor inconvenience at that point.
Right. And the Juicy Fruit are such a manufactured thing.
Yes.
And we know that he has like 1 million people on a string. He can just drag up a whole bunch of new fuckers that look exactly like him and just do a whole other thing again.
That's true.
It's a minor annoyance that he can't use a group that's already successful, the Juicy Fruits, for his club.
Yes.
But that's a very minor annoyance when you're as powerful as Swan is.
Another thing to keep in mind is the Juicy Fruits do not die in this explosion. So it's sort of just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the time bomb in the car, I don't know if you guys picked up on this. I connected it to Orson Welles' I think it's Touch of Evil. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but the beginning of it,
I don't remember it greatly.
I think, if I remember correctly, the beginning is a time bomb in a car. And that's how it starts.
Ooh.
And that's why I was like, I don't know if it's an homage to it or if that's just, maybe it's just a coincidence or something, but I wrote that down.
Touch of Evil is a great film with Charlton Heston and Brownface.
That's why I don't love it as much.
Yes. Later, Swan is listening to a recording of this event when Winslow accosts him. And Winslow is so damn cool in his black leather outfit and his Space Owl mask. I love it, even though he's just an incel superhero who happens to be good at like this one thing.
Right.
Making a pretentious fucking pop cantata about Faust, which nobody asked for.
Again, very close to the Phantom of the book, who was, again, an incel superhero.
Yes.
With a superhumanly incredible singing voice, and who spent all of his time in the opera basement writing an opera that Christine describes in the book as being so bizarre no one would ever want to listen to it. She's like, it's clear that he's a genius, but like this shit is awful.
Isn't he writing? I could be wrong, but isn't he writing a thing on Faust in Family Opera as well?
I maybe in the book, in the show, he's writing something about Don Juan, but I think in the book he might be writing Faust. I think you're right.
That's what yeah.
I'm gonna say that you're right because that sounds better.
It's been a while since I've read that book.
Yeah. Swan rips off the front piece of Winslow's helmet, and we get a glimpse of Winslow's Marilyn Manson-esque face.
This is also the first time that we really get to see Paul Williams like really acting as Swan, and he's so fucking good.
He's so slimy. He's
I
so
wrote down-
casual about everything.
I wrote down great delivery, like for Paul Williams, and like super scary. And I also, this is a little earlier, I wrote down this thing, whereas when the Phantom's about to kill Winslow, when he's about to kill
Thank you.
Swan, he says, "Killing me won't help you." And then the Phantom like walks away, or Winslow walks away, and he literally says, "Don't rush off."
That's what's sort of brilliant about, not like, again, Paul Williams is a tiny man.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
But
no, there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic Seinfeld. No soup for you. Paul Williams has such power and command as Swan.
God. Yeah.
Like, he literally is almost never out of his element. Like, he's always just like,
he's almost always in control.
he's always like, yeah, sure, whatever. A bomb just exploded in my rock palace. What the fuck ever. There's a space owl trying to kill me. Whatever.
Must be a Thursday.
We also learned that Winslow can no longer speak. His vocal cords were damaged in the record press. And Swan tells Winslow they'll start over, doing it Winslow's way. Winslow runs off. Next day, they audition lady singers. Up to the mic comes Phoenix, who happens to be the lady from the sex auditions.
Mm-hmm.
Phoenix is about to leave after filming his shitty tour, but from his dark balcony, Swan asked her what she would give him to sing.
And we see that Winslow like grabs his shoulder when she comes in to be like, "This is her. This is the one."
Yes.
So that's why he takes special pains to bring her back.
Mm-hmm.
She says anything he wants. Will she give him her voice? She begins to sing and is very good. And I like this song. As Ian mentioned, this is the
This is
best
my-
Phoenix song, I think.
My second favorite song on the show.
Nice. Yeah, this is great. And Jessica Harper performs the shit out of it.
She does. She's got them moves like Jagger.
She's got those
dancing.
like,
she's got this
70s white people dance
Oh
moves
my god, yeah.
where it's like she's just trying not to do the chicken dance at a wedding.
That's right.
She does it later. I wrote it down. She definitely
she
does the
actually
chicken
does.
dance
She
later.
does. She's got this funky duck walk. It's great.
But she makes it work where it's like,
yeah,
as we're talking about it now, it's like, yeah, there's something. It's not Bob Fosse.
No, it's not Bob Fosse. But no,
when you're watching it, like, yeah, she's great and she's fucking doing it.
I think that it does sort of like Mick Jagger, even though I meant that as a joke. Like, there is something about just the confidence and the swagger with which she approaches the moves, even though the moves themselves aren't great. She like commands your attention in a star power sort of way.
Because before she steps up to the mic, she's very cocky. She's like, I can do this. This is mine. Yeah. She's very much the Han Solo of this movie. To bring it back to Star Wars.
Right.
A movie that would not come out for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
After the audition, we see Winslow in what I can only describe as a nest of electronics.
Yes.
And apparently this was an actual place, and this whole thing was not like a recording studio. It was like one big synthesizer.
So basically exactly what it is in the movie.
Sort of, I guess. It's never explained what his fucking little hovel is.
It's basically like the way that an organ is an instrument that's built into an entire building.
Yes.
This is essentially an electronica version of that, where he himself, Winslow, is plugged into the music, and the music is literally flowing through him like the Force.
Yes. But he's been outfitted with an electronic voice box that makes him sound like a terrible monster until Swan mixes and modifies it to make him sound like Paul
Williams. And when he says at the end, it makes it sound exactly like Paul Williams. Perfect.
It's such a beautiful narcissistic detail.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh,
but also
I can make his voice sound like anything. How about my voice? Why don't you just fucking sing the song, Swan?
But also, Paul Williams' voice is just great.
It's great. It's fantastic.
You get to hear Paul Williams sing, so that's another cherry on top.
Here we get a second rendition of the Faust song where he talks about dreaming up friends.
Yes.
Swan tells Wilson, stop terrorizing the paradise. And to rewrite his cantata for Phoenix.
Yes.
That way they both get what they want.
Right.
But Winslow only has 1 week, much like the Bare Naked Ladies. Also,
we made that song to be the plot of this movie.
It's been 1 week since you disfigured me. God, Chickadee Phoenix, the Phoenix chicken. Also, he needs to sign a giant ominous contract bound. I don't know why I find this so sinister. It's bound horizontally with like black yarn. And there's something about binding something like horizontally as opposed to vertically that's like,
yeah,
this is the devil's work. And the font is literally they chose Old English in Microsoft Word. And the contract is
in the 70s when Microsoft Word was being used a lot.
Well, this was before they could have chose Papyrus.
Right, exactly.
It could have been in Comic Sans.
Now that would have been too demonic.
If it was in Wingdings and he has to sit there.
I don't understand any of this. The contract is super shady, and it has probably the best bit of sinister legalese I've seen in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
All articles which are excluded will be deemed included.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
What
Ian,
the
you want
fuck?
to bring up something about the contract.
For that exact thing is when he's reading that off and he's basically saying everything that you own like is going to be mine until I die and everything. And he says, what does that mean? And Swan goes, it's a transportation clause.
Yeah. There's some good jokes in this. There's some real good laugh lines.
That's in there to protect you.
Winslow agrees to rewrite his cantata.
Mm-hmm.
Swan, as per usual, makes him sign in blood.
Right.
And there's another great gag is he pricks Winslow's finger and makes him sign with a fountain pen. Swan has a rubber stamp that he uses to make his blood signature. Fucking hilarious.
Incredible.
Winslow sets to work rewriting the cantata, and Swan declares it tasty.
Tasty, Winslow, tasty, which is just an incredible line delivery, incredible line.
I wish... Obviously, Paul Williams would have been too old to play Austin Powers.
Oh, my God.
But Paul Williams would have been an amazing Austin Powers.
Oh, my God, yeah. Is he British himself?
Horny, baby.
Is his actual... I don't think I've ever actually heard just his voice. Is he British or is he American?
I believe he's a... Let's look it up real quick.
I believe he is American. He voiced the Penguin in Batman the Animated Series.
Did he? Oh
yeah,
my
and
God,
his
I didn't even know that.
voice in that, I think, is closer to his actual voice, and it sounds almost exactly like Swan in this movie, except without the English accent, and a little bit less sinister because the Penguin is a much more comedic villain.
Omaha, Nebraska.
There you go.
Paul Williams' hometown.
That makes sense, yeah. But if you want to hear more Paul Williams being just a great villain in something, watch Batman the Animated Series. His Penguin is one of the best, in my opinion.
I have to rewatch the show. I mean, I watched it a while ago, but I got to rewatch it again.
Yeah. It's one of those shows where you can just grab an episode out of it because there's no overarching plot or nothing. So,
yeah.
Next, we get my favorite bit of production design, where Swan is seated at his desk, which is a very impractical giant gold record.
Oh my God.
With seemingly no way in or out. I imagine 3'1" Paul Williams having to like get on a step ladder and crawl what must feel to him like 50 miles across the diameter of this desk.
Another voice role that Paul Williams had once, he played himself in an episode of Dexter's Laboratory.
Did he?
Where he, as Paul Williams, is just Dexter's babysitter. And he finds Dexter's lab and is able to get in because he's as short as Dexter is.
Oh, that must have been hilarious to every 8-year-old child in 1999.
As a child, I had no idea who Paul Williams was. I'm watching this and I'm like, and then years later, I'm thinking about Paul Williams and I'm like, shit, that episode was about him. That's hilarious. But yeah, so retroactively, the funniest episode of Dexter's Lab. At the time,
That's great.
As we learned, Winslow's terms were that Phoenix would perform the cantata.
right.
But Swan informs Philbin that Phoenix will be relegated to backup singer. What his cantata, he calls it his cantata,
Of course.
needs is something really heavy.
Yes. Not just tasty, but heavy.
And we get a great sequence and another great bit of editing and film work where we pan around this circular desk and we see the rewritten Faust song, which is a different tune, performed in different styles by different groups as we do this pan around.
Sure.
It's fantastic.
It's
Great
beautiful.
bit of filmmaking.
It's great. I love all the different, again, Paul Williams writing all of these different variations on this
Yes.
song. It's just incredible.
I'm not musically inclined at all.
Sure.
But I'm sure this would be so fun to someone who is very musically talented, like Paul Williams, where he's like,
Yeah.
let me just play around with this.
Also, I don't think we mentioned it, but the song that the Beach Boys version of the Juicy Fruits were performing before
Oh my
they blowed
gosh.
up was also a version of Faust,
It was called Upholstery.
which is just...
yes.
I listened to it earlier today, and Paul Williams did an incredible job of writing just the worst possible version of the song for the Juicy Fruits to sing.
Stephen King, seems tangential at first.
Okay.
Stephen King's best talent as a writer is when he does like sort of a longer book and he builds up a community of characters and all these situations. He's just like, okay, it's time to knock it down.
Right.
And I feel like that's what Paul Williams is doing with this soundtrack, this score,
Yeah.
where he's like, okay, as you were saying earlier, like, I'm going to build something up. Now I'm going to make it fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And just having so much fun with that.
Yeah. No.
But Swan settles on a curly-haired weirdo who plays a kind of heavy, like rock, like sort of like a Deep Purple type thing.
Played by Bud the Chud.
Oh, was that Bud the
It's
Chud?
Bud the Chud.
I've never seen Chud 2.
Neither
so
have
I'm not
neither
familiar
have
with
I,
Bud the
but
Chud.
I know that it's Bud the Chud, though.
But I'll get into his credits in a little bit. The credits I'm familiar with.
Sure.
In a bit. He sort of looks like a more statuesque version of the Greatest American Hero.
I guess. I guess if you
curly hair,
I guess if you took William Katt's hair and put it on Robert Culp's head and then gave him the eyes from Igor from Young Frankenstein, Marty Feldman, then that's how you get our Carlotta for the movie named Beef. An incredible name.
The best name in film.
And just like a commodity.
Yes.
Just fucking meat.
He's just a slab of meat.
That's all he is fucking presence and figure and voice.
Except for his voice, which I'm sure we'll touch on later. He looks exactly Robert Plant to me. I don't know if you guys thought that, but like with the long hair, or like not Robert Plant now, but like when he was in Led Zeppelin, the long curly hair.
Yeah, okay.
And the way he was singing, all I could think of is that.
And that would have been a very like timely reference at the time, so that might be intentional.
Very much could be. Swan holds a press conference at an airport, and here's what we get. Where we get what we were alluding to earlier.
Yeah.
Where we see the Death Records logo on the podium, and immediately, even from a distance, especially from a distance, it looks so unnatural. Not until Henry Cavill's mustache in the Justice League we see such egregious digital edition as this logo covering up what must have said Swan Song.
Yeah.
It looks
saying Death Records. It's hard to express how bad it looks through audio.
Here's the thing. is for 1974.
Yeah.
That is almost certainly the best they could do. Like,
Oh, of course. Of course it is.
Even by the 90s, I think that would be a de rigueur sort of digital editing.
They spent so much money on that record desk. There was no way they were going to be able to afford to just reshoot a podium. That was just not going to happen.
Swan announces that.
Has Brian DePalma George Lucas his films and gone in and re-edited them?
What do you think he would add to Phantom of the Paradise? Like, if you could go back and George Lucas it,
it has to be something
or even
so
Steven
minimal.
Spielberg it. Do you think he would take out the knives and like
Replace it
Put
with
in-
walkie-talkies.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Or Sam Raimi it and just ruin everything.
Oof, yeah.
But Swan announces the cantata will be performed by Beef, who is introduced by his glam goth posse by opening a coffin, and he emerges with a scream.
Well, he opens his eyes slowly, turns around, and then screams in what seemed very clearly to me to be a Dr. Caligari reference to the
And we're going to get more
Somnambulist.
Dr. Caligari references.
I wrote
shortly.
that down, yeah.
And again, Paul Williams played the Penguin in Batman the Animated Series, in which his design was based on Dr. Caligari.
Mhm.
So, I don't know. It probably means nothing, but I like it.
We see Beef trying to perform the cantata, but he gets frustrated because it was scored for a woman.
Mhm.
The range is too high. And Beef is something else.
Beef is something.
I wrote down the exact quote. This was scored for a chick. I'm not doing this in drag.
And
Right.
what does Swan say?
Oh, I didn't write that
Write
down.
that
What is-
down. He's like,
you can
you
sing any
perform it
better.
than
Yeah.
any bitch.
Yeah.
Yes, you can perform it better than any bitch.
Beef has when he's not singing, he has a very high voice, sort of a glam aesthetic, very prissy and diva-like.
Mhm.
Also,
He has a high voice with a lisp.
yes, he is very effete. Also, Beef's version of this song is terrible.
Yes.
Most importantly,
You mentioned earlier that your big problem with this movie was that we didn't get a return of Rod Serling.
yes.
My big problem with this movie is Beef.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the actor playing Beef. I think they're great. I like the fact that there's a character named Beef. I love that.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a break from the bird motif because apparently he's a cow, but whatever.
Well, again, because he's just a commodity.
Right. No,
he
I
does
get
not create. He
Sure.
just
right.
and he is there to be slaughtered.
My problem with him is that the joke seems to be, man, he presents as this hard rockin' badass, but he's gay. And that bothered me. That rubbed me the wrong way.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
I understand, I don't think that Brian DePalma or anybody involved in this movie had any sort of mean-spirited intentions with this.
No,
And
I
it was
never got that.
and it was the 70s, but at the same time, it did rub me the wrong way, this joke.
See, I took it more as yeah, we're sort of supposed to be laughing at how effete he is, but also this is just playing into the themes of masks,
Sure. Okay.
misrepresentation,
Mm-hmm.
a manufactured person, a commodity. Again, he's Beef.
Sure.
He is not a cow. He's not a living thing.
Right.
He is just a slaughtered product to be presented to what we will see is a very hungry mass.
Sure.
See, my problem with Beef this is where I think it goes too Rocky Horror, is his character.
Because Beef is very similar to Rocky.
Well, Rocky as well, but almost Eddie as well.
Ooh.
Oh,
Is how I read
hold on.
that.
Which one's
Meatloaf.
Eddie's
Okay.
Meatloaf, which also Meatloaf, Beef.
Yes.
Playing the food game today.
I thought of that too.
Oh man. If now I want to see Meatloaf as Beef.
Yes. Oh, that would be
That would have been incredible. The only problem with that is then his version of the music would have been too good.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But Swan tells Beef to make the song his own. So we're even Winslow, in addition to being like, Phoenix has to sing my song, and you have to sing the music I give you.
Yeah.
But Swan is just throwing all of that out the window because he's allowed to do whatever.
Yeah.
So make it your own.
Absolutely. Immediately Beef starts changing the lyrics and doing all sorts of weird shit with it.
Which once he does, I enjoy his later version of the song much better than this version of the song.
This is just rehearsal. Once we get to the stage, that's when we have the real product.
Exactly.
That's a good song.
Yeah.
The one where
Winslow has completed his cantata. Swan retrieves it. It's covered in pills that he's been feeding Winslow, and he exits. Then, an illusion we did not think of before, the cask of Amontillado.
I wrote that one down too, yeah.
Swan orders his goons to brick up the door to Winslow's electronic nest. Winslow awakes and finds he's been bricked in and shrieks a shriek that is heard throughout the building, including by Beef, who is spooked.
Again, Beef's arc in this movie follows the arc of the character of Carlotta in both the original, not so much the original book, but in most adaptations of the Phantom of the Opera story.
Gotcha. The wall proves to be no match for Winslow, who bursts through it like so much Kool-Aid Man.
That's where a little bit of the movie got a little too, I don't want to say campy. I mean, the movie's great camp, but that part I was just like, okay.
I mean, everyone knows that pretentious weirdo songwriters get superpowers if their music are stolen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's calling upon the power of his owl ancestors.
I did find it interesting that maybe the reason why he can do that is something like the pills him, and it's almost like Swan leads himself to his own downfall. He's the one that let him out of his whole thing. That's just how I read it, but
I didn't pick up on that, but he did kind of turn him into a cyborg with the whole voice box and everything going on there. And he accidentally one morning, instead of giving him speed, he gave him a little bit of venom, and he went all Bane on his ass.
Yeah.
You took my music.
Beef takes a shower, and then another Hitchcock ripoff, classic DePalma.
Yes.
And he's singing a snatch of Faust as he's lathering his William Catt-esque body. Winslow sticks a plunger into Beef's mouth.
Oh, I love
and
this
threatens him not to sing his music ever again. It's meant for Phoenix and only Phoenix.
I gotta say, the modulation on Winslow's voice as the Phantom is fucking incredible.
It's great.
He doesn't speak with Paul Williams' voice. He still speaks with the modulated.
With Paul Williams' voice.
Only sings with it. That's the only way that they could get it to work. But
I am interested to see if that's William Finley's actual voice, or if they just got anyone who maybe did it cheaper. Because obviously they voice amalgamated it so much.
I don't think William Finley's quote was that high.
Yeah.
I imagine they could have gotten him into the studio for that.
Also, he was already on set in the suit, so I mean, might
as well just have
I'm sure they could have just boom mic'd it and then modulated in post.
Could be.
Beef is thoroughly Scooby-Dooed out of the place. He's like, I ain't dealing with no haints. He tries to leave to go to Cincinnati.
Go to Cincinnati to be with my mother.
A very devious place, as we learned from The Good Place. Philbin tries to stop him. Beef informs him about the Phantom. And Beef is played by Garrett Graham, who was, you might be interested to know, in Beware the Blob.
Oh, that's right. Yes. I've seen Beware the Blob once. It is awful.
I'm sure. He was also in Chopping Mall in a role I don't remember because I saw that movie a very long time ago.
I assume he played the robot.
I assume. We can only... He plays all movie robots. R2-D2, Johnny 5,
right.
The Terminator.
You may know him under his other names, such as Kenny Baker and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
He has a lot of stage names.
It's a guild thing. It's a guild thing where he has to adopt different names.
He's in a lot of different unions.
But and I didn't recognize him because I saw this movie a very long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a movie we might do someday called Terror Vision,
I've
which
heard
is
of
a
this.
great bit of 80s camp.
Is this the one where the zombies come out of the TV? Or is that a different thing? No, that's the Video Dead. Sorry.
But this is a TV cable sort of horror thing.
Okay.
But he plays the swinger dad of the main character. The parents in TerrorVision are very 80s swingers.
Great.
TerrorVision also has a great theme song. We might do it someday.
Sure. Ian, you looked like you were about to say something there a second ago.
Oh, I was going to say, is that, I don't know if Brad looked this up or not, is that Garrett Graham's actual voice? Or did he just put that on for this movie?
I'm not, like his speaking voice?
Yeah.
I have a feeling that was an affectation for the movie.
That's what I thought too, yeah.
Based on every clip that I've seen of him from something else, I'm pretty sure that it was an affectation. He has a great line when
I think we have the same line.
When he's arguing with Philbin and Philbin's like, you probably just saw something because of the drugs. And he's like, I know drug reel from real.
That is a great line because we do see, he claims that Philbin accused it of being like an amphetamine hallucination.
Right, yeah.
But my favorite line of beefs is, can't you feel the vibes in your own house?
Oh, that's right.
Bad sport. Real bad.
That's my favorite line from The Great Gatsby.
Bad sport.
Bad sport. Real bad.
Can't you feel the vibes in your own house is so good. I almost want to put it in the theme song.
Yeah. Oh, man. I kind of support that choice. It's
maybe I'll do a second mix of the theme song, but I love the testicle line so much that I don't want to lose
I don't think that you can lose the testicle line. I think that that's essential because it's the only reference to the number 1000 we have.
True. But Philbin pushes Beef back upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna perform.
Yeah.
Now the performance has started, and the Juicy Fruits, aka the Beach Bums, have now become the undead, and they're very gothed up. Even really before like the 80s goth movement, that this feels more reminiscent of.
See, I wrote down Kiss for the undead with the
Same.
makeup.
Yes, no, there are definite Kiss vibes, but
the set behind them looks like an actual set from the Dr. Caligari
it's
movie.
very German
expressionist. Yeah, it looks like that one set from Casino Royale.
That's what I thought of because I've not seen Caligari, so I was like, oh yeah, Casino Royale.
Your guys' favorite film.
There are some revelations that we're going to get in a bit, but I do think, going back to the bomb in the car for the Juicy Fruits, I do think that technically the Juicy Fruits did die in that scene, the way the explosion goes off. And I think that they might literally be undead.
Possibly.
In this scene. Again, that's kind of spoiling more forward but we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Here's the reason why I didn't connect them so much with Kiss is because while the makeup is reminiscent of Kiss, although apparently it's reminiscent more of the character from Caligari,
the somnambulist.
Yes, I need to see Caligari.
It's worth it.
Isn't it like 3 hours long?
No, it's like barely an hour.
What am I? Mabuza.
What'd you say?
I said it's super short.
It's super short. Yeah.
I might be thinking of Mabuza.
I have not seen Mabuza, probably because it's 3 hours long.
But the way the undead sing it doesn't sound like Kiss or like 80s goth. It almost sounds like 60s British invasion sort of thing.
Yeah.
I thought more prog rock.
Okay.
King Crimson, that kind of
I can see it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. I really dug this particular musical number.
This was this was great.
Yeah.
This was great. And the best part of it
yes, absolutely.
is that the undead on their instruments, their guitars, they have curved blades on the end. And they're hacking up mannequins in the audience.
Mannequins that are disguised as actual audience members.
Yes.
So at first I literally thought the undead were just chopping up audience members.
I did too, and I was hoping for that. But that is not the case.
It is revealed later that that's fake. But my God, what an incredible show. I'm an old, from back in my college days, I'm an old fan of Alice Cooper and all of his stage stuff.
Yes.
So this was absolutely my home turf right here.
I would say the production design in this film is like unreal.
Oh, it's great.
My God.
So
Fantastic.
good.
It's half the film, really. Like,
Really, yeah.
just the sets and the costumes and everything. It's so good. Like that fucking fake prop car that the beach bums have
Yeah.
is so fakey, but it's so perfect for this like shitty 60s like beach party movie vibe. It's wonderful.
We talk about movies with like incredibly strong worlds to them. Like we were talking with just recently with Streets of Fire.
Yes.
And how like incredibly well built that world is. Same thing with here on what appears to be a tenth of the budget of Streets of Fire. But they still managed to build this incredible, again, immaculate vibe in the set of this film.
I was going to say, I think I alluded to it earlier, but I believe Jack Fisk did the production design, which he did Eraserhead, Mulholland Drive, Badlands.
You did not mention this.
Oh, did I not? Yeah.
Holy
that's Sissy Spacek. That was her.
Okay.
Jack Fisk was the production designer, and he's David Lynch's guy. He did Eraserhead and all those. Yeah.
Well, fuck me. That's incredible. Apparently, I'm a huge Jack Fisk fan, and I didn't know it.
Same.
So that's another one for me to look up later is more Jack Fisk movies.
While the undead perform, a Frankenstein thing is going on, which is not Faust. I'm not a literary scholar, but I know there's a difference between Frankenstein and Goethe's Faust.
Right.
But I love it. And Ian and I were kind of talking about this before, where one, the disrespect for the source material is very on point for Swan, where he's like,
sure,
whatever, do a Frankenstein thing.
Right, yeah.
And here we also get Rocky Horror parallels where they're creating the Beefcake Man.
The creating Beefcake Man. I will say, but I am such a fucking nerd for Frankenstein shit that the minute anyone references Frankenstein, my opinion of whatever I'm watching goes up an unreasonable degree. I already loved this movie, but the minute Frankenstein stuff happened, I was like, ooh.
But this works perfectly for Swan, who just like cops other styles and is like, whatever, let's just do whatever.
Yeah.
Let's take the 50s. Let's take beach music 60s and like let's just do whatever.
German expressionism, 1930s shit, whatever.
It's all Gothic literature. Absolutely. No, it's not, Swan. It's all Gothic literature.
I was gonna say Penny Dreadful. I kept on like alluding to. I mean, that's just Gothic literature, but like, that show and everything. I'm a huge fan of Gothic literature, so I was like, ooh.
Yes. Same, and also of Penny Dreadful.
Once Beef emerges from the slab, he performs another pretty good song. The best Beef song.
I love
and
that
here's
song.
Where
it's the best Beef.
Here's where like I know we disagree, but I feel like Beef's persona was not the joke, but was part of the meta joke of the movie, because every time they try to make him look tough and scary,
right,
he's just gayer and gayer.
It's
and I loved it.
It's super gay, and I also love it. I wrote so with like 8 O's, gay and 70s.
Yes.
And it's amazing. Yeah, no, it's great.
Because he's just like sort of chicken dancing around, and I loved it. Like, it didn't bother me the way it bothered you.
My only problem is the implicit assumption that being gay equals being not cool.
Gotcha.
That the gay equals bad thing.
Again, my idea is like trying to make someone what they're not.
Sure.
I was gonna say, I think he sings about loving women in that, and that's like kind of what I agree with. Is like, if they would have just made it a gay anthem, I think it would have been great, and it wouldn't have been like that and everything. Obviously, it was not at the time progressive, but like,
I will say, even beyond the Frankenstein references that I joked about, like, I do really like this scene.
Gotcha.
I really like this scene. I like the way that just the whole stage performance and the way that the actor is doing a great job. I don't have a problem with the actor. I don't have a problem with Brian DePalma. I think that this is a dated element, but like they did a great job with this sequence, and I really enjoyed it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's just I have more of a problem with the whole beef thing, I guess.
Gotcha.
I would say one of the controversial things that I think we jumped over is the F word is used earlier in the film. Swan calls Winslow the F.
Oh
I
my
didn't
God!
pick that up.
Yes, when he's disguised as a woman
Oh yes, he does
on the
say that.
circular.
Yeah,
bench,
I remember
he
watching
says,
that. I was like,
"Get this F
ooh."
word out of here."
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
if you're gonna George Lucas it, take that line out.
yes.
Take this fool out of here.
Yes.
No, that's not great. But I think there's also some irony to it because again, Swan is not a picture of masculinity.
I actually kind of liked that moment because it was more of a moment about Swan being, a horrible piece of shit.
Yeah.
Which he is, and that's what he's supposed to be. So like him completely dehumanizing Winslow in that moment with this horrible thing to say to a person it made sense at the moment to be like this sort of stab in the gut to Winslow.
Exactly, because I'm sure he recognizes Winslow and understands what he's doing to him.
Of course he does.
And it's literally just adding insult to injury,
Right.
which he is about to apply to Winslow.
Yes. But at the same time, whenever in 2022 you hear someone just fucking say that, it's upsetting.
We have talked about this with the not on the show, but between the two of us.
Yeah.
The big problem with the first two Bill and Ted movies is the F slur gets dropped once in each of those movies, and it doesn't ruin the movies for me, but it's a black spot on otherwise very sweet characters.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I also for the whole Frankenstein song, did you guys this Frankenhooker?
Another movie that I loved already, but the Frankenstein references made me love all the more.
There are bits of slasher to this film. It's not a slasher movie.
Yeah.
But the most inspired kill of the film is coming up. Winslow is watching from the rafters, and he, I guess on some sort of like zip line, sends this lightning bolt shaped neon sign like he's fucking Zeus at Beef, and Beef is hit and electrocuted and burst into flames.
I read it as he threw it, like with his super strength, I guess.
Okay.
But
so literally like Zeus. Then.
Literally like Zeus, yeah. And then
I-
also we skipped over the guitar humping.
Yes,
He
Beef
pumps his
does have
guitar.
a big guitar dick. Yes.
That was the working title of this movie, Big Guitar Dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's its Japanese title.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
Did you have anything else to say about the guitar humping, or you just wanted to make sure
No.
it was acknowledged?
Just
No,
needed to acknowledge that.
You need to acknowledge that guitar dick. I wrote down the lightning bolt kill is incredible.
Yes.
They don't really dwell on it. It's not like a slasher kill where there's like a lot of blood or anything like that. The lightning bolt hits him. The frame rate goes super wonky as Beef is just sort of like getting electrocuted and the actor is pulling all these great faces, and then he's just kind of gone.
Yes.
He's just kind of out of the movie. The movie, except for the climax, does not dwell on violence very much.
No.
Which I think is a strong and correct choice, because it helps to keep the movie light despite dealing with such dark subject matter.
Absolutely. Philbin sends Phoenix out to sing, explaining.
Oh, I wrote down the beef is dead. Long live the beef.
Philbin sends Phoenix out to sing, explaining in a way that would be horrifying to hear in real life, like, Beef was killed so you could sing. If someone told me before I was about to perform, like, oh yeah, that guy who was just murdered in front of your eyes, that happened so you could be a star, I would be a little put out.
Well, then also
Little
Philbin
better.
says, don't disappoint him or there'll be more bodies. And in an editing stroke of genius, it goes to Phantom killing the light guy.
Yes.
Don't disappoint him, more body.
Winslow kills the follow spot operator,
Right.
and takes over his tech crew.
Oh my
Good on
God.
him.
Good
We
on
always need
Winslow.
tech crew.
He's aggressive, but at least he does the work.
And
Yeah.
Phoenix comes on and sings a song. The crowd loves it as
Mhm.
much as they love Beef. It almost seems like the crowd will love anything you put in front of them.
Yeah.
Swan visits Phoenix in her dressing room. I guess technically beef's dressing room, but who cares?
Sure.
He's dead and on fire. Swan tells her she's going to be a big star, and Phoenix says she'll do anything to have that crowd again.
I noticed here that there's another literary reference that the film could be making, whether
Cujo.
intentionally or no, potentially Cyrano de Bergerac. Where
Okay.
the words of the not so great looking but incredibly poetic genius are being supposedly delivered through this prettier guy who then ends up being able to get with this girl based on the strength of them. I guess spoilers for Cyrano.
I also wrote down the line, probably my favorite line in the whole movie is Swan saying, "I like your name. You won't have to change it."
Yeah.
Barely registered for me because I was just like, of course that's what a douchebag would say.
Right, yeah.
But that is
that
brilliant.
line.
That is a great bit of writing.
And again, incredibly delivered by Paul Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Phoenix leaves to go meet with Swan so they can celebrate, but the crowd is just—it's like Beatlemania. They're just ready to mob her, so she takes another route and is napped by Winslow.
Yes.
Winslow reveals to Phoenix that he is in fact Winslow.
The guy
It is not a space out. It is your old friend, the creep.
The creep who talked about the music. That's me.
Here, I'll prove it to you. Sing it. No, just do it.
Remember me, who you met for 5 minutes months ago? And I'm obsessed with you like a normie.
Doesn't she also say like, "But you died"? And like, I
Yes,
don't
say that,
remember
because
that.
It was a weirdly publicized event. Like Phoenix even mentions, not Phoenix, Swan. Swan even mentions when is going to open the paradise with this music. It was produced by the late great composer Winslow Leach.
Yeah,
And so like a weird moment of crediting someone for their music. Although, as we learned in the opening song, death makes people overnight success.
Yes. Winslow says that Swan has taken everything from him except for Phoenix, who is not his.
Yeah.
Let's just underline that triple.
Have we mentioned that Winslow is an incel?
He pleads with Phoenix, but Phoenix is committed to the crowd. Makes sense.
Yeah.
You met this dude for, again, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Months ago. He's now horribly disfigured and has absconded with you to a roof.
I remember when I first encountered this movie, it was through some video producer doing a sort of sequential review of it back in the day. And whoever this reviewer was, I don't even remember, talked about the character of Phoenix as being so unlikable and so like horrible to poor Winslow. And watching it now for the first time, I'm like, no,
not at all.
Not at all.
She
Probably
behaves
that
like
guy
a
was an
young-
incel.
Yeah,
Exactly. She behaves like someone who wants to be a star. Like,
right.
and again, she owes nothing to fucking Winslow.
No, absolutely not. She makes some questionable life choices going forward in this film, but like they're her choices to make because she's her own fucking person.
Mm-hmm.
She flees and makes it to Swan, telling him that Winslow is on the roof. They go to Swan's house called the Swannage, and Winslow, again a creep, follows and peeps through a window and sees Swan and Phoenix canoodling.
Yes.
By the way, here's where I'm going to drop some knowledge.
Go for it.
Swannage is the name of a town in Dorset, England.
Awesome.
I was wondering if like a Swannage was an actual like, here's where we keep the queen's swans.
Sure, yeah.
Like an orphanage, but for swans.
Right, yes.
And Swannage is one of the top 10 most dangerous small towns in Dorset.
Really?
Yes. Which is apparently crimewatch.uk or whatever the fuck keeps stats on small town crimes in all the counties of England.
God.
Yeah, so now you know.
And knowing is half the battle, G.I. Joe.
But I also looked at some other sources that said Swannage is very lovely. Very sort of middle of the road. Not rough, but not posh. So
If
You
there's
should
one
do a
thing
travel
about-
episode. You should do a travel episode and go to Swannage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's within our $0 budget.
There's one thing about Swannage I could never stand. It was all the damn vampires.
So, reference to the Lost Boys.
Yes, I wrote down again Winslow looking through the skylight at Phoenix and Swan going out at each other, and I said Winslow wasn't a true Phantom of the Opera until now. Unless you've been cucked on a roof, you're not a real Phantom.
I like to play this game mentally sometimes where,
Sure.
you know the song Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls? So I imagine Winslow as the Phantom looking through this window as Phoenix and Swan just sort of like cuddle. And it's like, I don't want the world to see me because I don't think that they'd understand.
What about
Just self-aggrandizing, like, oh, nobody understands me. I'm such a creep. Nobody can love me.
what about Mr. Brightside? Just Winslow going, I'm Mr. Brightside, crying.
Coming out of my synthesizer, and I've been doing just fine.
No, the other song I got was
gotta be Faust because I want it all.
You
No, the
take
other
it to
song I got
Swannage,
was-
it was only a car ride, it was only
no. The other song I got vibes for was "Behind Blue Eyes" by the Who, where it's like, no one knows what it's like to be the bad man,
To be the Phantom.
to be the sad man behind our mask.
all around me is familiar Swan is.
Or just to go with the classic, I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo.
No lyrical changes there.
I don't belong here. These people are having a private moment.
But Winslow is devastated,
Mhm.
and like a true drama queen, well, I guess he doesn't have a lot else going on. Honestly, not that I'd ever advocate suicide, obviously,
Right.
but Winslow, not a lot. Like,
Pulls out
guess.
the Romeo card.
he plunges a dagger into his own heart, which Swan sees because even though he's canoodling, he's also watching CCTV of his roof, like you do.
Getting off on the pain that Winslow is experiencing.
And he sees Winslow up there. It's this weird, like, triple voyeur thing where
Mhm.
Swan is watching through. If Winslow wasn't there, he'd just be looking through his own window at them cuddling. But now he's watching Winslow watch them as he's watching them watch Winslow.
I get the sense that Swan would have not had a good time with Phoenix if no one had showed up to watch them.
I definitely think he gets off on Winslow's torment.
Oh my god.
Shittiness.
Another song from Hailstorm, I Get Off on You, Getting Off on Me.
Sure. Is that a Christian band?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes. I Get Off on You, Getting Off on Me is definitely a Christian song.
But later, when he's done cuddling, Swan goes up to the roof and pulls the knife out of Winslow and tells him that he can't die
Mm-hmm.
because it's not in the contract, bitch. Also, even if Winslow kills Swan, then that knife wound will reopen and Winslow will die himself.
Yes. And he tries to stab Swan in this moment, and Swan delivers my absolute favorite line in the movie. Just like again, this movie is not really a horror movie, even though it's often called that. But this line,
It's supernatural.
It's supernatural. This line chilled me to the fucking bone. He stabs Swan. Swan is completely unaffected, as he is with about most things in his life.
It's very blasé.
Very blasé. And he says, I'm under contract too. And
yeah, that might be my favorite line in the film.
It's great. And again,
Right?
Paul Williams' performance gets better and better as the movie. It's like a crescendo that we're about to reach the peak of.
Well, there's a line. There's a line right before that one, which is,
Yeah.
"You gave up your right to rest in peace when you signed this contract."
Yes.
Which is also how Paul Williams delivers it. Oh god,
Such a great villain line.
which is honestly kind of ahead of its time with the way that like celebrities aren't allowed to pass anymore.
It's
today.
it's still very poignant and very
Yeah.
true. And again, it works both on the supernatural level and also just the legal level, where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, You're not allowed to die because you're not allowed to.
You're just not allowed.
You need to make me money and make me fame.
Peter Cushing, Carrie Fisher, James Dean are all in movies that were made recently. Like that's fucking awful. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Surprise! Swan and Phoenix are getting married. In fact, they're getting married at the end of Faust on stage, and probably Philbin's best line is like, "What? So Faust doesn't burn in hellfire? He gets married at the end?" And Swan's just like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah, sure. No, it gave me huge flashbacks to the movie The Player.
I think I saw that when I was like a child.
Sure.
And it was on Comedy Central, even though I don't think it's really a comedy.
It's not a comedy at all, even though it won a Golden Globe for Best Comedy and or Musical, and it is not any of those things.
Well, the Golden Globes is topsy-turvy, upside-down land.
Exactly. But no, The Player is a big part of The Player is the idea of like this incredible screenplay that everyone in Hollywood wants, but everyone wants to change the ending because it has a sad ending. And the main agent of the movie character that we're following is able to get the screenplay by promising not to change it. And at the end of the movie, we literally end with a scene in which Bruce Willis and the lady from
Katharine Hepburn.
Sure. The lady from Pretty Woman. I think that was Katharine
Julia
Hepburn.
Roberts.
That's
Roberts,
it.
yeah.
Julia Roberts, who are two actors the screenwriter specifically said he did not want in the movie, playing out a happy version of the ending of the screenplay.
I was going to say with Philbin's line here, it's a funny line, definitely. But I also like all three of our main players in this movie are also like a version of Faust, the whole legend and everything.
Yeah.
Because obviously like Winslow,
sure.
But then Phoenix signs a contract. But then we learn that Swan signed the contract. And I find it really interesting that Swan is changing Faust's future. Instead of burning in hellfire, getting married, he's changing
Oh my God.
That's a brilliant observation, my man.
I did not pick up on that at all. That's great.
That is fantastic.
I'm just absorbing that now.
Yeah, no. Hats off.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Winslow sneaks into Swan's archives, which are a room with no door, it seems, and just white binders with, what does it say on the side? It's like,
I don't know.
It all looks like the products in Repo Man.
Yeah,
where it's just like white and black bold text.
This whole sequence very much had a vibe of like the movie's getting to a close. Let's get to that climax. Let's get to that climax.
But he finds a copy of Swan's personal contract, which is on a big magnetic reel-to-reel tape.
Yes.
As this happens, a woman named Betty tries to get Swan's attention. She tells others in the crowd that she and Swan went steady in high school 20 years ago.
Bum, bum, bum.
And she shows a picture that has Swan looking exactly as he does now.
Yes.
Now, this might be the other weakest part of the film for me.
Okay.
Because Paul Williams was 34 when he made this film.
Sure.
I'm sorry, but as Swan, like I said before, he looks like an upper middle-aged lesbian.
Yes.
He looks like he's in his 50s.
Sure.
And it's not Paul Williams's like look, as we're about to see very soon. I think it's sort of like the pseudo page boy haircut and the glasses. I never bought that like
that he was super
Swan
youthful.
Was like, yeah.
The vibes that I got off of him in the movie, especially in the scene that we're about to see where we see him signing his contract, in the way that he looks in that footage, is sort of almost a Mickey Rooney vibe, where Mickey Rooney played a young man, he was constantly in movies called Babes in Arms, Babes doing this, Babes doing that, and I don't know about anybody else. Mickey Rooney has always looked like 30 to me, even when he was
sure.
Young. I just kind of like slotted in my brain. It's like, okay, he's Mickey Rooney mixed with Justin Bieber, and just kind of moved on with it.
And I can't think about Mickey Rooney without thinking about The Simpsons and the Radioactive Man episode. Jiminy Jellikers! Jiminy Jellikers! I was the biggest box office draw from 1938 to 1942. Wow, spanning 2 decades.
I also love how in this scene we get our like fifth literary plot twist where this hasn't been Faust, this hasn't been Phantom, this has been Dorian Gray the entire time.
Yes. Right. Yes.
Which is great. And I mean, it's intertwined so well.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful pastiche. Winslow plays the tape. It was recorded in 1953, 10 years before Jack Kennedy would be killed. Just something.
Coincidence?
Wow. So Swan killed JFK. We found it out.
we figured it out.
JFK would not compromise on his rock cantata.
Get Oliver Stone on the phone.
He was the second Swanner.
And Swan in the video, looking more youthful than he does now, even though he's supposed to look exactly the same, says he's going to kill himself because he's getting old and he can't stand someone as beautiful as him decaying.
Sure.
As he's about to slit his wrist, his reflection, again, great bit of editing, great bit of filmmaking,
great bit of acting.
Oh my God. Again, this is his peak.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I laughed at the beginning because it reminded me like Sesame Street, Ernie in the tub with the rubber ducky. And I was like, what are we watching? What is this tape? And then then I was like, oh crap, this is like really good acting.
It's fucking fantastic. His reflection says he could live forever. And his reflection is obviously a manifestation of the devil, who tells him that if he agrees to the terms, this recording that he was going to record his suicide, that's how much of a narcissist, how much of a showboater, how much about performance Swan is.
I think he even mentions in the tape is like, this will be part of the archives of the incredible life of the artist formerly known as Swan.
But the reflection tells him that this recording will age in his place, Dorian Gray, as Ian already mentioned, and he must watch it every day. Also, if the tape is destroyed, so Swan will be.
Now, my question is, what part of the tape is aging? Because he looks young in the tape.
Yes. Maybe it's the quality. Maybe it's, like, I can't imagine it's like the tape itself because it seems relatively in well order.
The only thing that I picked up on is that there's a scene earlier when Swan is outlining the terms of the contract to Winslow, and then he immediately goes into a private room and re-listens to that tape again, and his voice sounds different when he hears it back. And it's like his voice is normally just this sort of thing, but then when he listens to it back, his voice sounds like this.
Yes, true.
Yes, yeah, I did. I forgot I did write that down. I wrote old Swan voice is the Swan in picture from Dorian Gray. Yeah,
I think that might be it, but it wasn't totally clear to me.
Now, I was confused about something here. So we know in Winslow's contract, it's if Swan gets killed, then Winslow dies. But right?
No, it's the only reason why Winslow will die if Swan dies is because he killed himself.
Yes.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
If Winslow had never inflicted any wounds upon himself, presumably once Swan died, he would be A-okay, aside from his horrible disfigurement and being a shitty creep.
Right.
So when it says here, if the tapes are destroyed, shouldn't that kill Swan right away?
That is something that confused me a little bit, but as we're about to see, I think the implication is supposed to be that it simply negates the contract, and therefore he would go back to what he was going to be before. Well,
and he hadn't slit his wrists yet, so I think he was just going to age up.
Hold on, because we'll get to it.
Okay.
I see. Yeah, I think you're right when you said that, though. Yeah.
Okay. Swan obviously agrees to the deal, and again, Paul Williams is fucking aces in this scene. We also, on this reel, we see Winslow signing the contract, and turns out Phoenix has done it too, seemingly under the influence of drugs, because she is not. She seems pretty zoned out.
She seemed to either be on drugs or just drunk. Like, either way, she was not taking the situation seriously, and that should probably null and void that contract.
And here we get a very demonic sounding Swan, which I think lends credence to what you're saying.
Just sign the contract.
There's a great line. Oh, there's a great line parallel where, like, when Satan's in the bathtub, not with him, but in his reflection and everything, and he says, "Don't waste the blood." And then Swan says,
which he said to Winslow earlier.
And he said to Winslow, that's what it was. Yeah. And he's like, don't waste it. And she's like moving her finger around and stuff. And he's like, don't waste it. You have to. I thought it was a good parallel.
Yeah.
That is great. Yeah. Also, I love the fact that because this is such a late stage twist that the devil is involved, the idea of having Paul Williams also play the devil is just brilliant, a brilliant concept of like the devil being the evil inside of yourself, and therefore
a short devil. If only the Bible would have thought of it.
But also it saves on having to have another actor playing the devil and therefore being super distracting to the audience. This way, I honestly wish more movies would just do it this way rather than just like having another actor come in.
No, the reflection idea is perfect.
It's brilliant.
And again, I'm sure we could mine themes out of this where it's like the reflection of Swan being evil.
Maybe Swan was the evil men do.
The real devil was the swans we met along the way.
I do really want to see David Lynch play Satan, though, or the devil.
That would be
oh my God, yes.
I don't care what movie.
Hey, how about this apple?
No, I want it to be a situation like in that George Burns movie, Oh God, You Devil, where he plays both God and the devil. Yes. And he's just like, they're both smoking cigarettes and just like arguing with each other.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Or it could be the devil. It could be the devil tempting Christ during that portion.
Sure.
Like, hey, Sonny Jim, you ever think about I don't know, making a gun?
And Kyle MacLachlan is Jesus, of course.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Now I'm picturing Dougie Jones, Kyle MacLachlan as Jesus. The meek shall inherit the earth. The meek shall inherit the earth. Call for help.
Call for help.
Also, Phoenix is going to be murked on stage by a professional assassin with a whole ass rifle,
because the death of Beef did so well for the opening of the Paradise. Now they're going to have a death on live TV. This is going to be even bigger news for them,
and it's going to be even bigger than Eddie Mitty from Jersey City. As from the opening, it all comes back.
It's all coming back to you, just like Boomerang.
Oh, the Eddie Murphy movie,
right?
I do really like that song a lot more now that I never really understood the parallels of the song because I thought it was just like a cute beach song. But now that you've explained, I think that song has definitely gone up in my rankings because it kind of explains.
Sure. Again, this YouTube commenter unveiled it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Winslow throws some sort of exploding box.
It was the box of dynamite that he had from earlier. It's all coming full circle
into the archives, setting it ablaze.
Yes.
And so Swan's contract is burnt up.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm thinking is what happens to the tape is what will happen to Swan, as we are about to see.
Oh, that kind of.
And now I do remember that he wears a mask here. I didn't think about that till now, and that's why he wears the mask in the next scene, because you can't see his face turning old because he's covered up the entire time.
But he doesn't. We'll get to it in a second.
Oh, okay.
He wears the mask because there's this weird thing where people have seen Swan's face, like he gives the press conference earlier without a mask, but there are no like widespread photos of Swan.
They even make it a point in the press conference scene where they jump people in the crowd who are about to pull out cameras and take pictures of him.
That's true.
So there is that. So live TV would definitely be a whole lot of pictures of Swan.
Yeah. On stage, a weird and wild happening is going on that I'm not even going to try to describe. It's some weird bacchanal.
But let's just say this is where we get Phoenix's bird dance.
Yes.
Yep. There we
go. Through this wild party galumps Phoenix. She is just She is galumphing back with all her might, making Lewis Carroll proud.
She's having a grand old time. Grand old time.
Another literary illusion.
And another great Muppets illusion when they did Jabberwocky on the Muppet Show, and Ralph goes galumphing back. Galumph, galumph, galumph.
I love the Muppet Show so much.
Winslow has found out about this plot. He moves in fast motion down the corridor. A great shot. Phoenix makes her way to the lotus blossom that is the nuptial stage that she and Swan will be wed on. And Swan is wearing this weird Dr. Doom silver mask that kind of looks like his face, but is also firmly in the uncanny valley.
Yeah. I honestly, it took me a while to realize that it was a mask and not just him with silver face paint on, because it does look so much like Paul Williams' face.
The assassin has his sights on Phoenix, but Winslow pulls the gun at the last moment, and thankfully the only one hit is a bishop.
Nope, that is Philbin.
Was
Yeah,
that
that's him.
Philbin?
Yeah.
Bishop costume.
In the car,
that's right.
In the
I've
car,
always wanted to be a bishop.
He tells
I've always-
Philbin, like, you can marry us. He's like, always wanted to be a bishop.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot. And I love that line when I watched it. Just
Yeah,
like
it's a
Philbin's
great moment.
enthusiasm
And
at
then-
being a bishop.
so,
he's
hey.
always wanted to move diagonally.
Ding dong, the Philbin is dead.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Next, Winslow swings down and snatches off Swan's mask.
Mhm.
And here we get a burnt visage.
A weird...
It is not aged. It is like sort of zombie-like, sort of, which is where I think, like, since the tape was burned, now it's like
So you think
Swan
that
was burned.
he's burned? Like that's a burn thing.
because he
And
doesn't look
also-
aged.
Also, I just now picked up on this. This is an inversion of the classic Phantom of the Opera thing, where most versions of the story, the climax is the Phantom getting unmasked, and in this, it's the Phantom unmasking his rival. In other words, kind of Raoul, unmasking him and revealing his disfigurement for the first time, and also the element of like the nice looks of Paul Williams throughout the movie have always been a mask of the evil within.
Sure, but everyone reacts in horror to Paul Williams' fucked up face.
Yes.
I think it would have been just as good as if he just looked 20 years older and everyone was just as disgusted.
Ooh.
Like as like a sort of a commentary on the obsession with youth and
Right.
like the need for youth. And it's just like, oh my God, he's 40.
Right. I think that would have been, that would have been good. Especially since like everyone is so mean to that lady who said that she knew him in high school.
Yes.
And she looks fine.
She looks absolutely
She
fine, but
looks
they're like,
great.
you're old enough to be his mother.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
I mean, if something terrible happened, I guess. But yeah, here's where I know that Swan sort of looks like a Fallout ghoul. Swan begins to strangle Phoenix, and the crowd is just still in there, like it's a bacchanal. They're still just dancing. They're fucking reveling. They don't give a shit that Bishop Philbin is dead.
Mm-hmm.
They probably think it's all part of the show.
In the diocese.
They probably think it's all part of the show still.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is,
And we already know that they love death.
Absolutely.
The crowd loved the death of Beef.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I love the death of Beef, so I guess
yeah.
I'm culpable in this as well.
The music swells. Winslow stabs Swan, and Swan is seized by the crowd, and he's lifted aloft, and it's just like they're in a friend. Again, it's a bacchanal. They're going to tear him apart.
Absolute frenzy. Yeah, this is like some mother level shit going on.
And Winslow begins to get back the wounds that he inflicted on himself earlier. He crawls to Phoenix.
His mask falls off, so you can, and his makeup has really increased in gnarliness since he first got his scars. He's got like a weird fucking eye, and he's crawling towards Phoenix, and Phoenix doesn't probably high as fuck, still doesn't know what the fuck's going on.
But she has a moment of clarity where she's like, "Oh, that's what that creep who was nice to me and almost got me a job, but he went to jail instead." Because she after Winslow dies, she goes and she caresses his face.
Right.
And this is where we end, and we get one last song, which is my second favorite song.
I think it's my favorite song.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's my favorite in the movie.
Good.
It's so good.
So
I must have
good.
the first time I watched this, I must have like as soon as the credits hit, I was like, okay, it's over. And turned it off.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how I did not notice that this is a fucking brilliant piece.
So this was my favorite song when I watched it when I was 14, the original one. and I just fell in love with the song. And then I completely forgot about it until I watched this movie again, and it came on, and I like audibly screamed. I was like, "Oh, this song!" And then I Spotified it like 30 times today.
Yeah,
It's so good.
I started listening to it on repeat too. I just want to quickly give my favorite verse of the song.
Go for it.
Born defeated, died in vain, super destructive, you are hooked on pain. And though your music lingers on, well, all of us are glad you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking devastating.
Devastating.
And the chorus. Oh God, I don't have it on the top of my head, but like bad in bed, nobody likes you, and you're better off dead. Goodbye, goodbye. We've all come to say goodbye, goodbye.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Perfect send off.
I love
that applies to most of the
God.
characters in this film.
Honestly, yeah. No, nobody in this movie is a great person.
No,
and I love that.
Exactly.
It's yeah.
So that is the
and
end.
Also this song plays over what is essentially the movie
montage
a movie
the credits.
A movie equivalent of a curtain call where we see all the actors.
It
and
really
they get their
is. I
names.
didn't think about that.
Yeah. There are a lot of movies in the 70s used to do this, and I really miss it. I love like getting to like appreciate each of the actors in turn instead of having just like a really quick like bunch of text fly by. And also it distinguishes the end credits montage from the opening credits montage instead of using that to replace the opening credits montage as modern day movies do.
So that is the end of Phantom of the Paradise. Billy, do you have any final thoughts?
I fucking love this movie. I'm gonna get it on Blu-ray as fast as I possibly can.
I believe Arrow has a release. I'm sure it has a bunch of great extras.
Of course they do. I have a new obsession. I love this movie.
It's
so
fantastic.
Much. And
it's wonderful.
I need to show this to Kaylee because she's gonna fucking love it.
She's gonna love it. Ian, bring us on home. Any final thoughts?
Alrighty. Like I said, this is just a film from my past that I was just like, I remember this quirky, obscure film and everything. And then I brought it up to, I think, Brad, even before, like maybe during One Flew, and was like at some point just like talking about it. And then I looked more into it and I was like, yeah, no, this is the one. And then when I rewatched it last night, it's like, this is probably my top 5 favorite films of all time.
Yeah.
It is. Like the music is some of the best. The acting, oh my God! And you know I'm a fan of literary illusions, and this is the best film I think I've seen as literary illusions.
Yeah. No, this is I remember enjoying this on my first watch, and we often talk about how the note-taking watch is
a bad time,
awful.
Yeah, especially when you're the one tasked with the plot notes.
Yes, no, specifically plot notes.
Yeah.
Just observation notes are fine, but like when you love a movie and you're like, let me break this down.
Yeah.
Plot point by plot point. It's not a fun time.
Let me break down how the sausage got made.
And even though I had to do that this time, and even though it was frustrating because I just wanted to enjoy the movie, I enjoyed the movie more on this watch than I did my first time.
Maybe because of that. Maybe once you got into the nitty gritty of it, you started to appreciate how well constructed everything was.
And I think I have a habit of watching movies like, okay, I need to check this one off the list.
Sure.
So I was like, Phantom of the Paradise. I've heard about this for so long, and I'm going to watch it, and I'm just to watch it.
Yeah.
And now I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh shit, this is really good. This is much better than, Yeah.
I love how it hasn't aged as well. Like we talked about the special effects and visuals and stuff, like they're all still great and everything is
great.
And for the Me Too movement, it's current right now and everything with the whole scene, and it's not like it's the villain. And also I think it's like we talk about the casting couch, but like it's also showing casting couch as a bad thing, which at that time probably was not a thing, right? And so
that's a good point, because there are a lot of movies that were contemporary to this that would have treated that as just like a quick joke of like, oh, the casting director is going to meet with some hopeful actresses, like that sort of wink nod bullshit. But this is this movie treats it as an element of horror.
Phoenix's line, I know one we skipped over, was like, are you actually going to let me sing this time?
Yes.
Like, that's a good line too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this movie is absolutely seething with resentment towards the music industry, and I fucking love that.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. Does anyone have any other thoughts?
Not at the moment. I don't think so.
Ian, thank you so much for joining
Yeah.
us. Maybe we can have you back on sometime. I'm sure
Yeah.
there are tons of other films you'd like to talk about.
Again, he sent you a whole list. So
he
yes,
did.
There definitely are.
He did. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Ian, for joining us. Everybody have a lovely whatever the fuck time it is.